Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. If you are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a roll call, please.
Kelly.
Here.
Mikulski.
Here.
Sabatini.
Here.
Leaks May.
Here. Okay. And also approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda. Anyone support?
Support.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Is there something?
Do you want to make an amendment to the agenda?
that's
Potentially,
right.
I'm not sure if I have.
Oh,
a new
yes.
version. Item 7M.
7M, yeah.
Oh,
Was
that-
removed.
that was
Okay, I'm looking at an old version. My apologies.
The catch.
All right, now, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. We now have, it looks like we have a presentation. And is our superintendent here? I see you back there. Superintendent Camille Hibbler.
Good evening, Mayor Leaks May, Honorable Board, esteemed community members. My name is Camille Hibbler, proud superintendent, Ferndale Public Schools. I'm here this evening to share some exciting information, but just to provide information. That's my goal here. As I just mentioned, this presentation is informational. I'm here to give more information about the Oakland County Enhancement Millage. So this is an opportunity for me to share what voters will be considering in the August ballot. I'm going to share some information about the estimated impact. It could be for both students and homeowners. And I will be sharing why local districts are discussing this proposal now. What this is not, this is not an ask for city council action. This is not an endorsement presentation. I have to say that is very important that I share that. So the proposal at a glance, so what will be before voters is a 1.5 mil increase for 6 years. The impact that it would have on students is each student in Oakland County, should this proposal be passed, would be afforded an additional $781 per student annually through the course of this proposal. So over 6 years, that'll be $4,686, and the estimated impact for homeowners with an annual cost of $200,000 market value home would be approximately $150 per year. So again, if approved, the collection would begin in December 2026, which means that if the vote is yes in August, school districts would receive funds as early as December 2026. Again, those funds will be distributed equally per pupil to public school districts and eligible public school academies for all of Oakland County. So just a really quick high-level overview for school funding. Since Proposal A, the state of Michigan controls most school operating funding through a per-student foundation allowance. So that is how schools are funded through the state of Michigan. There's only one local exception, which is a regional enhancement millage. This allows county voters to consider additional operating funds distributed equally per student. So again, how it works is it would be a county-wide collection, okay? So the funds will be collected by the intermediate school district and distributed to each of the school districts in Oakland County, as well as the public school academies. This is important because this does allow for local decision-making, right? So although the funds are distributed through the ISD, local school boards would have the discretion to determine how that school district needs to use those funds. So why are we talking about this now? So the funding pressure is not just one thing, it's multiple things, right? So we're considering the effect of higher operating costs, staffing needs, student needs, and restricted revenue tools. So as I think we all know and have been likely impacted by rising costs for everything, service, supply, inflationary costs, they continue to outpace our available operating revenue. Staffing pressure, districts are competing for teachers, competing for substitutes, specialists, and support staff. I'll talk a little bit more in just a second about what that competing looks like for Oakland County districts. Student needs are different, both academically, social emotional needs, medical needs, special education needs. They continue to grow year over year at a rate that we are struggling to stay abreast on. And then limited tools. So bond and sinking fund dollars are restricted and cannot be used for salary. They cannot be used for general operations. So it is important to note that at this time, 44% of Michigan students are already have access to regional enhancement millage funding through their county. Oakland County does not. So I mentioned this before, but again, it's important that we double down on this. $781 per student annually. Okay, that is an estimated annual funding that would follow every public school student in Oakland County. So for the course of this proposal, which is 6 years, that will be $4,686. So funds will be included in each district's operating budget and remain subject to local public budgeting processes. So this is the example that I will provide. So again, 1.5 mils equals $1.50 for every $1,000 of taxable value. So if the market value of your home is $200,000, the typical, this is not very, clean, but this is just an example, typical taxable value for said $200,000 home is $100,000, okay? So the estimated cost, should this ballot proposal be passed, will be about $150 per year. So similarly, if you have a $400,000 market value home, typical taxable value is about $200,000, which would mean the impact for said homeowner would be $300 per year. Okay, so residents can use the Oakland County property lookup. I will give the website in just a second if you would like to use a very, very specific tax calculator, which is on the website to determine the specific impact for all homeowners. So the big question is, what are we going to do with those funds? So what would school districts use those funds for? Number one, this is intentionally in this order. Number one would be to recruit and retain staff. Okay, I'll talk about in just a second how many of our neighboring counties already have an enhancement millage. They already have one. Wayne County, for example, has now passed 2. So we are struggling to compete with our neighboring counties to keep our teachers, to keep them and pay them at a rate that is competitive. We want to make sure that we have top talent. We want to make sure that we keep top talent, and we can only do that if we're able to compete with our neighboring county and the neighboring districts. Also, equally as important is maintaining our staffing ratios, staffing to student ratios. We want to make sure that we have enough support, not just enough support, but we have adequate support to meet the needs of our students, and that will require us to maintain our classroom staffing ratios. Student wellness, mental health, behavior, safety, ensuring that we are able to continue to fund those, because as we all know, those are priorities for school districts. Special education stability, I mentioned previously, reducing that pressure on general fund to ensure that we're able to provide the service that we know that our students need. Programming, preserve and strengthen programming across grade levels, and then, of course, operations, so transportation, technology, security, and other general fund needs. So again, this proposal provides local flexibility, so how Ferndale schools may choose to use the funds should the proposal be passed could be different from how Oak Park or how Hazel Park may use those funds because the needs in those districts are different, okay? So again, this proposal provides flexibility, and I just gave that example, so. I apologize for the color of this font, but what the ballot will ask is the language asks whether the limit on ad valorem taxes in Oakland schools ISD should be increased by 1.5 mils for 6 years. Voters will vote yes or no. Okay. So here is our election timeline. August 4th, 2026 is the big day. Polls open at 7 a.m. However, absentee ballots become available as early as June 25th. July 20th, last day to register in person. We have early voting from July 25th to August 2nd. And then we have some deadlines around for our absentee ballots. And again, just reiterating how quickly the funds will be allocated to districts should voters decide that it will pass, will be December 2026. So I'm going to say this website out loud, but it is also on the screen. The website is www, all one word, oaklandenhancementmillage.com. As mentioned, the tax calculator can be found on that website should you want to enter your specific address to determine what the impact will be for your household specifically should this pass. So, Board, I am unsure if there will be the opportunity or if there are any questions or conversation, but I would be very happy to answer any should there be any. And again, thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit more about a wonderful opportunity for our students. So I can accept any questions if you have any.
I don't have any questions, but I think you kind of answered it. A wonderful
Okay.
opportunity for our students.
I think so too.
All right,
I hope our voters do as well. Thank you so much for the time.
thank you. All right. Item 4B, Macroconnect Network Improvement Reports.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Micah Schlief. I'm with Macroconnect. We are the network and IT managed service provider for the city. And in a time that it seems like we're talking about cost increases everywhere, I'm really happy to be reporting some cost savings that we've been able to identify in the IT department, really in a plan that goes back a few years, but what we've been able to execute over the last year. So there were two major initiatives that we delivered on over this time period. So one was the network overhaul, essentially, we would call it. So there was a lot of equipment that was previously being leased through Everstream, the internet provider for the city. And what we realized by reviewing those contracts was that there was a little bit, too much money being spent on that arrangement. And so it made more financial sense really for the city to purchase and invest in its own network infrastructure. And so that was kind of the opportunity that we pursued, and resulting in $316,992 in savings over the course of the 7-year term. And we'll get into the details of why that is over 7 years, but it is a 7-year agreement with the network provider for the licensing for that equipment. So really proud of that figure. And then the other area where we were able to identify some savings is through the AT&T telecom agreement. And so we were able to kind of dig into all of the lines that the city had open, do some actual physical testing of each of those lines and confirm what was needed and what was not, and really do a consolidation there. That ended up resulting in a $53,000 savings over, that's annual savings. So a little bit more on the Meraki Enterprise Agreement. So this is just a breakdown of what was being paid in the other arrangement. And so the first at the top, you see a network management fee that Everstream was kind of charging for monitoring all of that equipment. What we realized was that was kind of, it was kind of repeating stuff that Macroconnect is providing for the city already. We get alerts when network equipment goes down, and so we were able to get that removed from the contract, resulting in the $740 a month savings. One other thing that we were able to reduce was just the overall cost of the fiber circuit running to City Hall. And then the big one here for City Hall was the equipment lease that was on that monthly arrangement. And so we were able to get that eliminated, resulting in the $308,000 savings over the 7-year term of the license agreement that we agreed to. The other area was for the dot parking garage. There was also a fiber circuit running to that location, and we were able to eliminate or reduce the cost of that fiber circuit as well, and also eliminate the equipment lease for that location as well. So overall, all this equipment and the reduction in the fiber circuit costs resulted in a $640,000 savings over that period. Obviously, this went with some costs as well. So the city had to invest in licensing for the equipment and then the physical hardware itself that was installed in 2 phases. But overall, that cost ended up being $323,000 for the city. So we're looking at a $316,992 savings over the 7-year term. And the reason that you see the 60 for the City Hall instead of the 84 months is because I found out from Everstream and doing some research that there was some permitting delays on the beginning of that contract, and so it delayed actually getting the fiber up and running here at City Hall. And so that's going to go into effect in 2 years. We'll see that additional $540 a month reflected on the savings. But wanted to capture it as an overall initiative. This is all part of the grand plan, if you will, working towards that overall savings. So this is just a timeline showing the planning phase that really went into this. So we started talking about this back in 2023, actually. And so we identified that as an issue, but unfortunately we were locked into those contracts that couldn't execute on any change until we saw those out. We did use that time to plan effectively and research the best solutions for the city. And the city qualified for this agreement. It's called the Enterprise Agreement. It's for larger organizations. And so we were able to pursue that with Meraki, Cisco Meraki, and reach that agreement with the city. The agreement was signed in July of 2025. So that was kind of kicking off officially the first phase of execution of the project. Phase 1 was the dot parking garage location, swapping all of that equipment and adjusting those contracts. And then finally, phase 2 was City Hall. There's some equipment at Police Department and DPW as well. And then the other area that I touched on at the beginning was the AT&T consolidation. So there's a few different things that we did in review of those contracts. So one of them was just looking at legacy lines that were unnecessary and not needed. And so we were just really able to do the testing and slim those down. That resulted in quite a big chunk of savings at the $40,000 annual savings. And then the next step was looking at items that were out of contract. And so with these companies, AT&T, whatever, when you run to the end of a contract, they won't cut off your services, but they end up increasing what you're paying. And so we found a couple items that were out of contract for that and did a deeper dive and were able to upgrade to the newest services that they're offering. And that was another $13,200 annual savings. And then as a bonus, we were able to get the backup internet connection here at City Hall upgraded from 10 megabits to 100. So just providing more reliability if there is an outage to the main fiber connection. And obviously all that while reducing the costs overall with AT&T. So just, in summing all of that up, that we had the big, chunk of savings with the 7-year contract, moving over to the city, purchasing its own equipment, getting out of that leased agreement where, there was just too much, money being dumped into that. And, now the city has a best-in-class network, with all new equipment, all managed equipment, and just a steady understanding of what that licensing is costing to maintain that network. And then seeing the $53,200 by eliminating those AT&T lines. Really proud as a resident myself, being able to chip in and save, money for the city and see some of those funds allocated elsewhere to city services or however the city deems, they want to spend those funds. But happy to contribute to cutting some costs in these times. And then, just anytime we can get an increase in bandwidth for the city, that's always a win. So pretty proud to be able to get that included and save at the same time. Any questions? Okay.
Great.
Through the chair. Thank you. Always nice to see saving money. I don't know, Colleen, this might be a question for you, but if you were to do hypothetically, a phase 3, what areas would we look at for improved efficiencies and saving more money?
So a lot of times we like to look at like copier contracts as well as a part of like our review of services. But I think another thing that's always out there is licensing, just digging deeper into licensing that other departments are using and just checking if that's still useful. Are you still using that every day? Like, what can we consolidate and really trim back? We were able to do some of that as well with some of the Microsoft licensing and really maintaining a level where we only have a couple spares at a time, but we can order more. So we're not sitting there with a big bank of licensing that's not used and we're paying for it for no reason. So that sort of deep dive into all these different areas is how I would, try to approach it. But what we would like to do next, I think, we've done that with Microsoft at this point. We've done this with the network licensing. I think looking at other departments as well and seeing like, hey, what could you cut? What are some areas where, we can kind of scale back a little bit?
So through the chair, this is something that we had started under Joe Gaccho's leadership. I think that in terms of priority, it would be very advantageous to refocus there, look at all the software that we have, and at least get a lay of the land. I'm actually a little bit shocked that we don't fully have that at this point. And I would say if I could provide any guidance to city staff, if we can prioritize that, that would be amazing.
Sure.
Great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No suggested action. All right. Let me just get my agenda in order here. All right. We have come to the call to audience, where we will allow anyone to speak on anything on or off the agenda. You would line up at the podium, state your name and address if you wish. We allot 3 minutes for your statement, so please try to adhere to that. And I'm opening call to audience at 7:26 p.m.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Frank Castronova. I live at 430 West Troy Street, and I'm here tonight in my capacity as president of the Ferndale Memorial Association. The association is proud to present Ferndale's 108th observance of Memorial Day. This is the oldest continual commemoration of the holiday in the state of Michigan. This year's event will be held 2 weeks from today on Monday, May 25th. The parade will begin at 10 o'clock on Livernois at West Maplehurst, going north to West Oak Ridge, west to Pinecrest, south to West 9 Mile, and east to Livernois, and finally south to the Memorial Mall, where a ceremony will begin at approximately 11 o'clock. Our keynote speaker this year will be Matt Johnson. He's a United States Navy SEAL veteran who served with SEAL Teams 7 and 10. And we will honor the memory of local veterans of our nation's armed forces who died since last Memorial Day. The Ferndale Memorial Association is independent of the City of Ferndale and is entirely volunteer-led. Contributing to the success of our event each year is the support and assistance of the city's elected officials and employees. I would like to thank the mayor and the city council for approving our special event permit, and also thank city employees Michael Larry and the Special Events Committee, the Department of Public Works, and the police and fire departments. I invite all residents of Ferndale to join us in 2 weeks as we commemorate Memorial Day during this year of our nation's semi-quincentennial. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gay Tischler. I live at 430 West Troy Street. I'm a longtime Ferndale resident. There's been a lot going on in our city, and I would also like to say that I'm a proud Zionist Jewish woman. And guess what, folks? I have Palestinian cousins through intermarriage back in the early 20th century. They moved here from Ramallah, and we are very close, and we love one another, and we get along. I'm happy that both Jews and Palestinians will be honored in our city this month as well as next month. It all breaks my heart what is going on, as I'm a peaceful person who has always embraced people from everywhere. My Palestinian cousins have enriched my life, and they have told me that I have enriched theirs as well. Love will always win in the end. Don't let the bullies on either side get in the way. We all live here. Let's make it work.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Deborah Olszewski. I'm here with Moms Demand Action, along with several of my other friends. We've all been touched one way or another by gun violence, and we want to draw attention to this problem. We want to acknowledge and thank you for making gun violence prevention a priority in your city with your Wear Orange proclamation. By designating Friday, June 5 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in Ferndale, you honor the victims and the survivors of gun violence and draw attention to the epidemic of gun violence in our community. Highlight the need for continued adherence to laws and strategies to promote gun safety. We and Moms work hard to lobby our legislature for good laws and the backing of them. Some facts: every day in America, 125 people are killed with guns. More than 200 are shot and wounded. An estimated 4.5 million children in the U.S. live in homes with guns that are both loaded and unlocked. Firearms are indeed the leading cause of death for children and teens in America, and access to guns triples the risk of death by suicide. How can you help? We have a program called Be Smart, and I will be happy to leave a few of our cards in the back if anyone's interested. It's actually a program about half an hour where we talk about secure gun safety for parents and groups. We're happy to come do this program for anyone who is interested. There's information on the card. And Wear Orange on Friday, June 5th. And check out our wearorange.org to find out more information. I will leave also some Wear Orange ribbons for anyone who may want them to wear orange. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Leaksmay, council members, fellow Ferndale residents. My name is Andrea Popovich. I live on 1445 Pinecrest, and I'm here to talk about 4 things, and I'll keep it uber short. First, valet parking. We pride ourselves on the walkability, so I don't see why we would do valet parking. If we're trying to please the businesses around, I'd suggest like a shuttle from the dot. It's also more environmental friendly. It's a tiny road there. If I'm thinking of valet going back and forth, it just doesn't sound very Ferndale. Second, I understand we're trying to sign up with a company called Carbine for 911 calls. I would suggest that we look at some US-based companies, such as Everbright 360. Also, Carbine was acquired by Axon, which I don't think I need to regurgitate what we talked about a couple months ago. Third, Lake Orion had a recent water challenge, water break, and I think it might be a good thing to like reach out at some point, obviously when the water, when everything has settled, to understand what happened and what the mitigation was for what actually happened. And then last but not least, I wish I would have mentioned this during the temporary city council panel, but I see a couple of us are in the audience. Currently, the Ferndale Environment and Sustainability Commission has 2 seats that are open. And I really encourage you, if you have environment or sustainability on your mind, to go to the city's website and put your application in. That's all. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, neighbors. My name is Alex Manuel. I've met some of you on council, but I wanted to say hello. I am, I think, the newest member of the Planning Commission. So thank you for your vote of confidence, and I look forward to serving the city, all of you. My background is in civil engineering, public accounting, and I currently work as a consultant for a large insurance company. So I'm looking forward to applying that knowledge here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Gilmer Hill. I'm a Detroit resident just about a mile south of Ferndale, but I am also a candidate for our shared state house seat here in House District 8. And I'm here once again to tell folks about the Michigan Money Out of Politics ballot measure. And to let folks know, if you haven't signed already, we only have a few more days for collecting volunteer signatures. So that'll be hopefully wrapping up around the 13th. I know many folks here have already signed, and thank you. But if you haven't, the Michigan Money Out of Politics ballot measure is seeking to ban certain kinds of corporate money in our state elections. So even with Citizens United, which is a huge problem at the federal level, there's still things that we can do to limit what gets spent and who can spend in our state elections. This ballot measure is proposing to ban contributions from regulated monopoly utilities, so DTE and consumers in particular, and then any company that has more than $250,000 contract with the state, which would include, for example, Comcast, Blue Cross Blue Shield, a lot of the other biggest spenders in our elections. We here in Michigan have the power to say that we don't want these big corporations to be paying money and deciding who makes the regulations they have to follow. We don't need to just allow Michigan to continue to be a pay-for-play system. And this ballot measure will give us the power to set pretty clear guidelines against certain kinds of the most harmful corporate spending. But that's only possible if we can get on the ballot, and we need hundreds of thousands of valid signatures from Michiganders to make that happen. Now, we're actually really close to being there, but we need a big buffer just because inevitably some signatures end up not being valid, people make mistakes with their addresses. So we need to get as many as we possibly can to make sure that this gets on the ballot for this November. And if you haven't already signed, signing tonight is the #1 way that you could help make sure that happens. If that's of interest to you, and if you haven't already signed, I have my petitions here with me. Also, if you signed, but it was a long time ago, before last October, you do need to sign again because they restarted the signature collection process late last year. So if you're not sure, they are checking for duplicates. You can come see me, you can sign, and then they'll make sure to validate and remove any duplicates before that gets turned in. But thank you, and I hope to be able to come back and talk about how we're going to win in November.
Good evening. My name is Mariam Ghanem, and I'm here to thank you for introducing the proclamation recognizing May 15th as Palestinian Cultural Day. This acknowledgement means a great deal to Palestinian residents and supporters in our community, and it reflects a commitment to cultural recognition, inclusion, and shared understanding. A special thank you to Mayor Pro Tem Laura Milkulski for requesting that this proclamation be brought forward for consideration. We appreciate your willingness to honor Palestinian heritage, history, and contributions in our city.
Hi, Michael Hennis. I'm the owner of the restaurant House by You on Woodward. Former council and planning commissioners told me how important accessible parking is to our businesses. They realized it then. And that's why they told me they had a solution to the problem. They had an agreement to build a parking structure on the site of Ferndale Collision, and that would take care of our issues. And we said that was fine, but it was very important to make sure that we had that solution in place to protect the businesses. Before the dot was built, multiple studies showed that the east side parking on Woodward, there was a real parking deficit, and the deficit was larger on the east side than it was on the west side. The parking study that the city paid for after the approval of Vester Flats came to the same conclusion. And I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but I think that they said that the Vester Flats will increase the deficit beyond the number of spaces that were removed, because the development itself has 20 fewer spaces than the 1-to-1 ratio that the city normally goes with. They also noted that when Otis reopens, that would almost double that number. There were about 500 cars that parked in the Vester lot just on Fridays and Saturdays. They were lined up down the street. It was really in demand. And 90% of those cars were there to fill one of the about 1,200 seats that are in our northeast quarter of Ferndale. And that estimate is 1,200 is actually low when you consider the cafe seating. And at the same time, we lost most of the parking on Woodward. Some of our customers do walk, and they're walking a little further. Some cross Woodward looking for parking. Very, very, very few of them go to the dot because it's out of sight. It's out of sight, so it's out of mind. Some have given up coming down here, especially on the weekend nights, and especially our seniors. And some are parking further and further into the east side neighborhoods, and that's going to affect the residents going forward. I hope you strongly reconsider the Ferndale collision proposal in your plans. I'm interested in the Cypress plan, but when you remove those spots, in the short term, we are really going to have a very significant issue on the east side. For comparison, they would leave about 50 spaces roughly in the Breckenridge lot, and that for all of these customers here is about the amount of spaces that Cruise and Muir has for their restaurant. We did use valet when we first, in 2000, been in the city for a long time. And our block, Como's, at that time was the Post, and our restaurant shared valet services. And it was very effective. If we do valet again, if you decide to do it again, you have to put it in a place where people can see it. On Vester I think would be a good option. When you move it even further out onto Bermuda, when again, like the dot, when you can't see it, it's hard for people to use it, and I think we'd be wasting our money.
All right, Mr. Hennis, I need to stop you now, but thank you.
Okay. All right.
I'm Rufino Valentine. I am a 20-year resident of Ferndale. For the last 15 years, I've lived at 610 La Prairie. I am also the owner of Valentine Distilling Company. We've been there, I don't know, 14 or 15 years. I'm not sure. We've been in business for almost 20 years now. I'm here to speak. It feels like forever. I've been doing this 3 or 4 years about the parking in the northeast quadrant. This is a problem that the city created when they got rid of the parking for the 141 Vester development. For the years that we were talking about this development, it was all theoretical. You know, the city had said some things as, well, nobody drives anymore, everybody walks, and certain things like that. Well, it's no longer theoretical or hypothetical. It's reality. And the reality for me and many of the other businesses in the northeast quadrant is that it is devastating. It has demolished our business. And on a personal note, I've worked on this thing for the majority of my adult life. This supports my family. This supports me. This is real for me. I'm not some corporation who can just shut it down and move to another city and and retire, this is a big deal. And so and I've showed some of you my numbers. It's absolutely real. And I think we tend to forget, you know, what businesses do for a downtown. Without businesses, and Ferndale, when I first moved here, was not like it was, or like it is now. There were a lot of vacant spaces, and the downtown did not do as well as it does today. The second thing I want to say is, you know, with this development that's coming in and the possible new parking structure, I've heard it said that this would be giving a bonus to big business. This would be paying money or benefiting taking city public money and benefiting big business by giving back the parking spaces that were already there. I can't say enough how that is just not true. This is not big business. I live in the same house that my wife and I bought in 2011, 1,100 square feet. I'm not some rich business owner. When I get off of my 50 to 60 hour work week, I don't drive to West Bloomfield to my mansion. I drive to 610 La Prairie. This is real, it's important, and if you don't care about me, and the city for years has been trying to run me out of town, think about my employees. I've eliminated 2 full-time positions, good paying full-time positions at the bar, and 1 really good paying full-time position at the factory. This impacts everyone, not just me.
Thank you, Rufino.
Hi, my name is June Axelrod. I'm at 477 West Troy. I would like to echo Gay in saying something that I've been afraid to say since October 7th, that I am also a proud Zionist Jew. I also support Palestinians and every other ethnic group. I have always been an ally, and I have to say that it has been very hostile in this city. And I just want to recollect when my mother and father first went looking at apartments in Detroit in the 40s, I'd say, and they would find signs on the apartment doors saying, "No Jews, no blacks, no dogs." And I think that the businesses in Ferndale who have obviously taken a side at the expense of the feelings of Jews who have also suffered greatly from what has happened in the past few years, I see a big no Jews sign. When I see people drape a keffiyeh over their mannequins or put up stop the genocide signs, I think we all know that both sides have suffered and that we can have compassion for both sides. And I do not like that I feel in this city now that I am not welcome. And I think that we need to address this. And I honor the fact that we are celebrating Palestinians and Jewish Heritage Month. And I think that people need to start being a little bit more tolerant in this city of unity, because it does not feel like unity anymore. Thank you.
Any more comment for public comment? Okay. All right, then I'm closing public comment at 7:46. No public hearings tonight, so I'm moving on to the consent agenda. Item 7A is approval of the April 27th, 2026 meeting minutes. 7B, approval of the listed appointments and reappointments to city boards and commissions. 7C, approval of the resolution to observe Friday, May 15th, 2026 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and proclaim the week of May 11th, 2026 as National Police Week. 7D, approval of proclamation recognizing June 5th, 2026 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. 7E, approve of the resolution to observe May 2026 as Mental Health Awareness Month. 7F, approve of the proclamation recognizing May 15th, 2026 as Palestinian Culture Day. 7G, approve of the resolution to support for a National Public Works Monument. 7H, approve of proclamation observing May 17th through the 23rd as National Public Works Week. 7I, approve of revised L4029 tax rate request form for the GWK Drain District. 7J, approve of the critical repairs for forestry aerial lift vehicle number 1238 by DLCO in the amount of $5,597.88. 7K, approve of the professional services agreement with OHM Advisors for East Saratoga Street, preliminary design engineering in the amount of $29,500. 7L, approval to purchase replacement Ford F-150 from Suburban Ford of Ferndale in the amount of $60,000. And 7M, approval of bills and payrolls as submitted by the Finance Director and subject to review by the Finance Council Committee, or the Council Finance Committee. Need a motion for the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so now we're going to take this moment to read some or all of the proclamations that have just been approved tonight, and I will start to my left. That's you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the declaration, May 17th to 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week, as submitted by our DPW Director, James Jamison. At a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Ferndale, Oakland County, Michigan, held in the council chambers at 300 East 9 Mile Road, Ferndale, Michigan, 48220, the following proclamation was moved and supported unanimously. Each year, the American Public Works Association declares the third week of May to be National Public Works Week. This year's theme, Rooted in Service Powered by Community, recognizes the essential role public works professionals play in supporting safe, sustainable, and resilient communities and enhancing the quality of life for all residents. And these infrastructure systems, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, including engineers, managers, operators, technicians, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other critical infrastructure essential to our community. And it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children of Ferndale to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their community. And the year 2026 marks the 66th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ferndale City Council hereby proclaims May 17th through 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week in the city of Ferndale and encourages residents to recognize the dedicated public works professionals who provide essential services and make substantial contributions to protecting public health, safety, and quality of life throughout the community.
Councilmember Kelly?
This is the resolution of support for a National Public Works Monument. In honor of Public Works Week, the City of Ferndale, Michigan recognizes the vital role that public works professionals have played in building and maintaining the infrastructure that sustains our communities and our nation. To honor these contributions, a proposal has been advanced to create a National Public Works Monument in Muskegon, Michigan. This resolution affirms support for that initiative. The Midwest branch of the Michigan chapter of the American Public Works Association initiated discussion about establishing a national public works monument to honor the people who have built our public infrastructure in America. The onset of COVID-19 and the overall transition within the industry placed a pause on this effort, which is now reborn with new energy in 2026. An abstract conceptual design and budget have been updated, and the city of Muskegon, Michigan has agreed to the placement of the monument on the shore of Lake Michigan. And the next steps for the Monument Committee is to secure formal support from the entities around the nation, including road commissions, counties, cities, and townships that oversee public work professionals. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Ferndale, Michigan endorses the concept of a national public works monument to be constructed in Muskegon, Michigan to honor the industry, its accomplishments, and the lives of those who have built this great country.
This is the resolution recognizing Palestinian Cultural Day. For over a century, the Palestinian American community, which accounts for a portion of the Arab American community, has been making valuable contributions to many aspects of American society. Palestinians can trace their roots back to the Canaanites, who inhabited the land west of the Jordan River and the Dead Sea. On May 15th of every year, Palestinians commemorate Al-Nakba, which refers to the uprooting and permanent displacement of over 700,000 Palestinians in 1948. This year marks the 77th anniversary of Al-Nakba. There is opportunity for better understanding of the history of Palestinians in the U.S. in order to combat Islamophobia, bigotry, and anti-Arab hate crimes and speech. Palestinian American concerns such as civil rights abuses, harmful misconceptions and stereotypes, and bullying must be addressed especially through education, awareness, and inclusion. We celebrate the rich and diverse heritage of the Palestinian American community, including those who live, work, and play in the city of Ferndale. The city of Ferndale shares an obligation to condemn and combat anti-Palestinian hate and prejudice wherever it exists, to include Palestinian Americans in civic life, and to support local education about our Palestinian community. Be it resolved that Ferndale hereby proclaims May 15th, 2026 as Palestinian Cultural Day in celebration of and appreciation for the achievements and contributions made by members of our Palestinian community.
And I'll be reading the resolution recognizing National Police Week first. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation which designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. It is vital that all citizens know and understand the responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement officers, and that all members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, protecting the innocent against deception, and the weak against oppression. The Ferndale City Council calls upon the citizens of Ferndale and all patriotic, civil, and educational partners to observe Friday, May 15th, 2026 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, honoring the law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their communities or have become disabled in the line of duty. Therefore, it is proclaimed that the week of May 11th, 2026 is National Police Week, and we, the City Council of the City of Ferndale, urge all citizens to join in observance. I have a couple more. I'm going to read the mental health one first, but both of the proclamations really tie in together. Resolution recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think and act. It also affects how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important for our individual well-being and vitality, as well as that of our families, community, and businesses. Nearly 1 in 5 American adults will have a diagnosable mental health condition in any given year, and more than 42.5 million U.S. adults live with anxiety disorder, the most common mental health condition in America. May 1st through May 31st is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental Health America's 2026 theme is More Good Days Together. Encourages us all to reflect on what a good day looks like, both for ourselves and for our communities. Together, we can use that insight to connect people to the right support at the right time and shape advocacy, education, and community engagement to make more good days possible for all. The City of Ferndale joins our local and national partners in promoting this year's More Good Days Together campaign. Mental health management ensures that individuals can focus on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society while promoting diversity, inclusion, and acceptance. The City of Ferndale is committed to inspiring hope, empowering people, and strengthening our community. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Ferndale hereby recognizes May 2026 as Mental Health Awareness Month. The City of Ferndale calls upon our citizens, fellow government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, faith-based organizations, and schools to recommit our state to increasing awareness and understanding of mental illnesses and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illness to promote recovery and a higher quality of life. The next resolution is recognizing the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation declares the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Ferndale, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to end this public health crisis. Every day, nearly 130 people in the United States are killed by gun violence, and more than 200 are shot and wounded, with an average of nearly 19,000 gun homicides every year. People in the United States are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. Michigan has 1,423 gun deaths every year, with a rate of 14.2 deaths per 100,000 people, a crisis that costs the state $16.8 billion each year, of which $380.5 million is paid by taxpayers. Michigan has the 28th highest rate of gun deaths in the U.S. Gun homicides and assaults are concentrated in cities, with more than half of all gun homicides in the nation occurring in 42 cities. Cities across the nation, including Ferndale, are working to end the senseless violence with evidence-based solutions. Protecting public safety in the communities they serve is mayors' highest responsibility. Support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from those who are in danger to themselves or others. Mayors, city council members, and law enforcement officers, in partnership with local violence intervention activists and resources, know their communities best and are most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. Gun violence prevention is more important than ever as we see gun violence continue to impact communities across the country. In January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15. And on June 5th, 2026, to recognize the 29th birthday of Hadia Pendleton, born June 2nd, 1997, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute. 1, Hadia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence, and 2, the loved ones of those victims. The idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is the color that symbolizes the value of human life. Anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 5th, the first Friday in June 2026, to help raise awareness about gun violence. By wearing orange on June 5th, 2026, people across the United States will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. We renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all that we can to keep firearms out of the hands of people who should not have access to them, and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and communities safe. Now therefore be it resolved that Mayor Raylon Leaks May, the City of Ferndale, declares the first Friday in June, June 5th, 2026, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. To honor this day, City Hall will be lit up in orange on the evening of Friday, June 5th. I encourage all citizens to support their local communities' efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to lives. Thank you. And thank you to Moms Demand Action for being here tonight. All right. So now we are going on to our regular agenda. Item 8A is the letter of intent with Cypress Partners, and we will need a motion before the discussion starts.
I move to approve the non-binding letter of intent with Cypress Partners for consideration of development of the city-owned surface lot at 135 East 9 Mile.
Support.
So a little bit of background while they get set up here. The city has been in discussions with Cypress Partners since August of 2025. And during this time, we've been evaluating a proposal that would incorporate the current city-owned surface lot, what is Lot 13, at 135 East 9 Mile. The due diligence during this period has largely been centered around the cost question, which is it feasible for the city to enter into an agreement of this nature and potentially develop a parking garage? What we looked at in that process was how tax increment financing could be used to subsidize the debt portion of a millage, or the debt portion of a bond issue in order to pay for the parking structure. Preliminary figures suggest that it is feasible to make that work. However, we need to do a deeper dive, and obviously the developer has work to do in terms of seeking appropriate approvals and finalizing a design. I think what's important to highlight for this conversation is this is a non-binding letter of intent. It's really just signaling that we want to continue that due diligence, that we're both prepared at this time to start making the conversations public, to seek input from the public, as well as just feedback from council and the business community in terms of how this project ultimately gets structured. Fundamentally, that approach is different than how the city has approached this type of development in the past, and that is very intentional. So, with that in mind, there will be questions that don't have answers, precisely because we are coming to you in the concept phase. And I hope that we can frame this discussion more as direction or feedback than necessarily trying to find ways that it doesn't work, not just for council, but for the community that's comments directed at. And ultimately build something either, through this process or through other processes that make sense, because we know the demand exists to find a solution permanently to the parking deficiencies in our northeast quadrant. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Parks with Cypress Partners.
Thank you, Colleen. Appreciate everybody's time this evening. And as Colleen stated, we have been working quite closely with the city staff for several months in the idea of developing what we would call a public-private partnership project. We have always wanted to develop a Class A project in the city of Ferndale. I'm the owner of Cypress Partners. We're a local real estate development company. And we just started looking around, and we noticed that the property at the corner of 9 Mile and Bermuda was empty, and it was communicated to us that the city had this significant parking issue, and that they may be desirous of trying to combine that lot with the city lot to try and create a public-private partnership of a mixed-use project. So we, of course, got very interested in that because that's what we do for a living. And so we started the dialogue and started communicating with everybody. And, of course, James and Colleen were terrific in that entire process. And we just started working on it feverishly for the last 5 months, 4 to 5 months, I think, and working through, some early design, conceptual plans and some early concepts with a revenue bond, and we went to work with the MEDC a bit on state TIF that would be available, and of course the local TIF that would be available, and we went to work with our consultants to try and figure out the economics of all that, and it started to really take shape, and we were like, this is terrific, because it seemed like it was an ideal opportunity for us to develop a nice mixed-use project, and the city could get the parking that it sounds like they so desperately need. And so we worked just coincidentally with Krieger Klatt and Tower Construction on a regular basis, who are building the Vester Flats. So it was kind of a natural for us to continue the dialogue on all fronts. So that's kind of the quick history of it, and I could walk you through a quick kind of introduction on who we are. So Cypress Partners, again, I'm the owner of Cypress Partners. We're a local development company, and we do projects exactly like this. We do infill mixed-use projects. The cover sheet is a project that we're currently working on in Northfield Township, which is 11 acres and has an abandoned shopping center on it that we are going to tear down, and we've worked with the city, the township, I should say, for about a year on all the approvals. Similar TIF approval that was in this case was a PUD, which will be the same case here if everybody would like to go forward. PUD project that has a for sale product and a rental product, and also retail with it. Again, just some quick history on us to let you know that we do this for a living and done this a long time. So again, it's my company, Cypress Partners. We've in the area, the Detroit area, we've developed in excess of $500 million worth of property. We specialize in these ground-up projects. Our most recent project is we took, which I'll show you an image of, we took a abandoned office building on Kurtz Boulevard in Troy, converted that into 90 units of multifamily, and then developed 2 Class A apartment buildings behind it. So we took a empty lot and converted all that in the city of Troy. It won several awards, and it actually showcased by the city planner for the regional planning group, came out and took a look at everything. It was about 50 city planners came out to the property. Some obvious advantages that I don't have to tell you because this is your city, but to us, it completes the 9-mile development area by filling in the last remaining lot, and it completes what we'd call the shopping and dining area, so it creates all that connectivity. This will, as it's currently designed, will have 250 parking spaces, which includes 160 what we call transient spaces. This will provide for the current 47 spaces that are on that lot, the 75 spaces that were lost to the Vester project, and an additional 40 spaces. It brings, at the current design, it would bring an additional 100 to 110 residents living, shopping, and dining in the area, and we believe that helps everything and everyone. The alley, we think needs to be spruced up and improved. We would, as part of the project, which we'll show you an image from downtown Detroit where that was done, that we could really create a beautiful walking, connected alley for everybody. And again, we think it provides a long-term taxable project and helps the city at large and the DDA. This is a project I referenced. This is a project that we finished last year. The front building is a 100,000 square foot office building that was converted into 90 units and a clubhouse. The 2 buildings in the back are 55 unit multifamily Class A property, Class A project with elevator. This is the finished product, how it looks today. It leased up fabulously. And this is the project in Northfield that we're currently doing. This is a project that we're doing in joint venture with Toll Brothers, a national housing group that's building 70 townhomes in addition to the multifamily and the retail that you see on the right side of the image. The townhomes will be priced there about $500,000 to $600,000. This is a project that we built in St. Clair Shores. There was an abandoned church and school, if you know that area. It's located just north of 12 Mile and Lakeshore. That was sold by the Archdiocese, so we worked very closely with the city over 6 months to work through all the site plan approvals and process and got everything done and tore down the abandoned properties there and created a Class A. That's actually a senior housing property that overlooks Lake St. Clair. This is a property in Ann Arbor that we developed up on Nixon Road. In the background there is M14. So it's where Nixon Road hits M14. Again, was just kind of an out parcel in the city of Ann Arbor, and that's 264 units with a clubhouse in the front. This was an idea that we just came across that you've probably seen, many of you in the city of Detroit, that would be, somewhat similar to an idea that we could present to the city to connect the parking deck and the multifamily to all of the businesses along Woodward there. Just one concept. It's just kind of a fun image that we saw. As you know better than anybody, this is the site. It's always kind of fun to see it in an aerial. And everybody that I've shared it with is just ecstatic about what that could be. It's just kind of interesting to look at it from that angle, not that you don't know it. And then I think James, maybe the other one. Help me. Thank you, James. This is conceptual, of course. These were created by Krieger Klatt. This is the footprint of the property, including the corner property at Bermuda and 9 Mile. So this would be the ground level. Some of the images going forward will be a little easier to see, but what you see before you is in the corner, which I would call the southwest corner, is about 3,000 square feet of retail and an entrance and kind of an amenity space for the multifamily that will be on top of the garage. This again just lays out the, oh, I'm sorry, this shows it even better. This is the retail in the pink, and as it's currently designed, and a lobby and kind of amenity space for the multifamily, and of course shows the parking at ground level. The other spaces are really what we call back of house or utility spaces, elevators and stairwells and things like that. This would be the second story of the garage. It just again shows you the parking that would be built. This is the third story of the garage, again showing the parking that would be built. And it's actually got, it's 3 stories, but it's got 2.5 stories. There's a half story that has parking, so the one before that was actually the second and a half story of parking. That's now the 3rd floor of parking. This is just real conceptual at this point, but this is a unit layout that shows you how well this really fits. And I've been doing this my whole adult life, so I'm always shocked that when footprints for properties always work like this, because they don't happen that often. So it really fit really, really well. Not only does it handle the parking number and the flow of the parking, it handles the unit count and the unit layout, which is really not an easy thing to do. In this case, it works absolutely beautifully. It gives you the amount of units, it gives you the size of the units that would be required. Again, it would be a mix of units as you'd expect in a multifamily project. That was the first floor. That was the first floor of the multifamily. This is the second floor. I'm going to go back. There's an amenity deck that's planned for the what is the 4th story, which is the first floor of the multifamily. So this is just moving through the floors. Again, this gives you a profile of the garage and the units that would be above. And then just some early, these are just really preliminary, but gives you a sense of how it would look. Again, excuse the materials at this point. That's nothing that we would stick with, or we would, of course, talk about all that later with Planning Commission. But it gives you an idea of kind of how the project, how well it fits on the property and the scale of it and what it would do, in our very strong opinion, to help the area, connect everything. So again, it's 3 stories of parking and then the 4 stories of units above it. And that's our story.
This is a letter of intent, but I'll open it up to council to speak about it if you have any questions or comments.
Through the chair, what level of community engagement is anticipated through the process?
So right now, what we've discussed preliminarily is, rather than going directly to Planning Commission for approval, hosting specifically a public engagement session with Planning Commission, so just an informational Planning Commission session that would be open to the public, and then also in communication with DDA, coordinating a meetup of businesses to specifically have like a business breakfast or a business forum to discuss this project, all before anything goes to Planning Commission for consideration.
Through the chair, can we do that now without signing the letter of intent?
Yes,
though?
the first step is the LOI, the next step is over the course of the next month, those 2 activities.
Those activities, we have a lot of information here now. It seems like we could start doing some town halls with this.
Exactly, this would be the materials for the town hall. So I believe the Planning Commission meeting is May 20th, is that correct? Yes, May 20th. And then we haven't set a date yet for the business meetup, but that would, the intent would be in the coming weeks that we have those community engagement opportunities.
And we can't have those without the letter of intent.
I would say that the letter of intent doesn't really bind us to anything more than saying we are starting this conversation and doing the due diligence. It is a lot to ask a developer to start making significant investments in due diligence on our parcel when they don't have control of the parcel. So this is viewed as a good faith effort to them and by their lenders to have something that says the city is in earnest exploring this opportunity.
Okay.
And then, obviously, we already have a parking issue on that side.
Yes.
So what's the plan if we end up moving forward with the project during construction time?
The preliminary plan would be a shuttle service. Ideally, we would hope that we could work something out with Credit Union 1 because that would be a much more feasible shuttle service back and forth. But worst case, we have to use the DOT and shuttle from there.
Okay.
We did determine with our building inspector, though, that it would be possible to get some or possibly all of the parking structure open before the residential units are complete. So the timeline for the parking structure is slightly less than what it would be for the total construction.
Okay. And then could you better explain the TIF proponent?
Sure. So the simplest way to put it is if we create something that is a public asset, we don't generate any tax revenue on it. Obviously, we are the owners of it. To generate tax revenue on something, there has to be private investment. In this case, the private investment would be the 86 residential housing units. Those 86 residential housing units pay taxes. Instead of that, in other places, we've done pilot programs. In other places, we've done TIFs. TIFs, you still pay your tax, but the tax that is captured goes into a special separate fund, and you can be reimbursed from that fund for work that qualifies. It can be brownfield work, so remediation efforts. It can be work to repay for public infrastructure. That's what we're proposing in this case, is that the tax capture on the residential portion of the development be used to repay for the cost of the public improvements, which would be the parking garage.
And do we know now how long that would last?
Yes, so we can time the TIF to be exactly the same length as our bond issue. So if we get a 30-year bond, we can do a 30-year TIF. If we get a 20-year bond, we could do a 20-year TIF. The numbers already preliminarily work out for a 30-year bond issue at, I would say, fairly conservative rate assumptions. So we feel confident with continued due diligence that financially this project could be feasible.
Through the chair, and that's in contrast with the DOT structure situation where the financing was tied to the parking revenue, correct?
It was largely tied to the parking revenue. There is a TIF on it. However, the DOT is distinct in the fact that the private development portions were all phased, and the developer of the DOT is now in breach of that contract for failure to complete the necessary phases, and realistically, the phases that would have generated us significant enough tax revenue to offset the cost of operations. The inherent benefit of this is while we will be without the surface parking lot as a result of the development, it is a singularly phased development. And so the tax capture from the housing component is as instant as you could make tax capture be, because it will be the very next year after the housing is concluded.
Through the chair, the tax capture begins when the project's complete and people start renting units?
Yes, so once the project is complete, and it has its very first tax appraisal in the next tax year, taxes are levied on it, and that is captured as part of the TIF.
And is it tied to rental take?
Yes, well, typically, the units will be assessed. We don't necessarily look at vacancy rates or like how quickly they fill up. Yeah, we use comparable properties to determine the assessed value of a parcel that has multifamily housing.
And is Cypress responsible for paying the assessed tax value regardless of if the units are being rented?
Yes, the property tax value, it's not on an individual units on the property itself, and the taxable value would be based on the number of units.
What sort of backstop protection net is there for the city if the units don't rent and Cypress has to walk away or whatever happens?
The taxable value of the property is still going to exist regardless of who owns it. And TIFs do carry with developer changes or property owner changes. The other thing I would note is this isn't a development agreement. This is just the outline for us continuing a conversation. A development agreement is really what's going to answer that question.
Unrelated, what is the net number of spots that we're going to be getting? I wasn't able to do the math before the slide went away.
So there's 250 spots proposed. 86 of them would be for the units. The remaining would be for what's called transient parking, so hourly parking. Reducing that by 75 for the spaces we know we lost in the formerly privately owned lot, and 44 or 45 for what's currently in that lot. We net around 40 more. So we bring back all the spaces we lost, and we add 40.
So it's still a net.
Yes.
Net gain, yeah. Okay, I just was wondering by how much. What did you say, 40?
Yep.
Plus the 75.
It's 40
Well, plus the
additional.
75 that were
That we
formerly
already-
private, yes.
Yeah, we've already lost.
But the
Yes.
net gain is 40 new
Yeah.
spots. Parking deficit in the east quadrant. Well, I'd be curious about the parking deficit in the northeast and the southeast. Do we know what those numbers are?
We have the study from 2023 that identifies the parking deficits in throughout the downtown district. We also have utilization rates for specifically all parking lots that the city owns and all on-street parking spaces. So we can kind of deduce from the level of vacancy or the lack of vacancy through utilization where we have deficiencies. But yes, happy to share the parking study or make that public again, kind of refresh that parking study again. And I do recommend that as part of this process, particularly because we're going out for a bond issue to consider the debt, that we do a refresh on the parking study specifically to look at the demand for a structure of this size and at this location. I think that will help us in selling the bond issue ultimately. And we can do that at no cost through a state grant program.
So through the chair, after this meeting, you'll send us that most recent parking study?
Yes. And the utilization rates for that quarter. The utilization rates were actually added to the agenda packet. I don't know if they came through to you guys. They were added on over the weekend, but.
Yes, those are there.
And the letter of intent, I just want to make sure it's for, okay, all right, I think I see it. Never mind.
And it does set some timelines. That was something that our legal counsel had advised, that there be some milestones to ensure that we're making progress, that this isn't just something that languishes. I do think that from our conversations, the developers in this case have consistently shown progress and interest in moving the project forward. So I'm not concerned about those timelines being met.
So through the chair, Michael Hennes had been here earlier and asked about another potential parking project that had been in the works long, long ago, 181 Vester, back in 2022. And I just want to be clear, if we enter into this non-binding LOI with Cypress, that does not disallow somebody to work on an additional offer to the city, correct? Or additional
Correct.
parking
Yeah.
structure? Okay.
Any other questions regarding the letter of intent?
I have no further questions, but I do have a comment.
Okay. Do you want to state it now?
I do.
Okay.
Number one, I'm excited to see something like this manifest in front of us. Going back to when all of this first started, when we go all the way back to March of 2022, when I voted no on the 141 Vester project, which obviously you didn't know about, you weren't here. I don't know why I'm looking at you and talking about this.
That's okay.
But
I'm a good target.
But back when we took that vote, there was a lot of rhetoric coming from the dais about the fact that we had a site plan for a parking structure at 180 Vista, that it was approved by the Planning Commission, that finances were still being sorted out, just to see if it was even feasible. And during that time period from March of 2022 and present day, it has still been in the back of my mind that we have this parking issue. 141 Vester didn't break ground until maybe a year ago, if that's right. We had business owners petitioning us for months prior to the vote in March of 2022. They were desperate. They stated that this was going to be an issue. And here we are at ground zero where all their worst fears came true. And during that conversation, I made a comment that at the start of our meetings back then, we would always have some sort of blurb. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it said something about being residents first. And these businesses are also residents. Not only are they residents of our downtown, these are also folks that live in our community. They participate in our community, they contribute to our community, and quite frankly, we screwed them over. We created a problem, they have been dealing with this problem, they were coming out of COVID, they were coming into a woodwork construction project, and they have dealt with it to the best of their ability, and to see something as a potential light at the end of the tunnel is exciting for me. I hope that the finances make sense. I hope that the structure makes sense for our community. I'm at least excited to have the conversation so that we can potentially find relief for folks who have been suffering for a very long time.
Through the chair, I'm sorry. We have several parking-related items on the agenda, and all of them seem correlated to me. I've got a lot of confusion still in terms of what the businesses want and what they don't want. Some of them are diverging. So I just feel like I don't know if I have enough information even to say, yes, let's put some more resources into this, however big or small they might be. I would like to talk to, I agree, I think that the businesses are, part of our community. Some of them are residents. I wasn't here for anything prior. I probably don't fully understand the scope and scale and severity of it. So my hesitation comes from a place of not wanting to make the same mistakes. And I couldn't say, yes, I think it's a good idea to start having this conversation. So I want to get the businesses the solution that they need, their staff, while being mindful of the residents in the area. I am just confused and uncertain and unclear of what that path looks like. And I think it's a prime opportunity for a town hall to discuss all of these agenda items with everybody in the community, especially the business owners and their staff, because I don't want to be part of the same mistake. I think there was something else that was highlighted that I just want to mention. I'll let it go after this. But we're going to be filling in the last remaining lot in that area. I think that underscores the value of that land. And once it's a parking structure, it's a parking structure. And maybe that's the solution. I'm open to that discussion. I'm just not convinced tonight. Okay.
Any other comments? All right. We have a motion, and it's seconded for the letter of intent. Roll call, please.
Kelly,
Yes.
Nikolsky.
Yes.
Sabatini,
No.
Leaks May.
Yes. The motion to approve the letter of intent has passed, and now we're moving on to agenda item 8B for the valet program pilot. I can't talk tonight for some reason.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Ferndale community. I'd like to start off first by thanking some of our Ferndale businesses who have advocated for their needs, who make downtown Ferndale what it is. It's why I moved here back in 2014, because I saw a walkable, bikeable downtown, and it's changed a lot over the last 10 years, and I think it will continue to change. So it's always an exciting time in downtown Ferndale. Tonight, I am coming back with a revised proposal based on additional information since the last time we spoke about what a pilot could look like. This is now in conjunction with a proposed public-private partnership with Credit Union One. So this is just a quick recap of what we identified last time as, kind of the affected businesses, especially on the east side. You can see highlighted in purple where we have public spaces. Councilmember Sabatini, I believe you asked earlier about some of the numbers on there. So this is updated. That gives you a little bit of math that you can do on the fly of where the split is of parking on the east side versus parking on the west side. And then rough color coding of the different businesses that are affected in different ways based on their operations, their time, their clientele, many different factors. So our objective in coming forward with this valet pilot proposal is to reduce or to remove barriers. We know there are a lot of different people who come to downtown Ferndale. There are a lot of ways they get here. Not everyone is able to bike or walk. Not everyone can afford to ride share a great distance, depending on what they're coming to do. So this is one element in as Councilmember Sabatini mentioned, a attempted kind of comprehensive plan to do different things based on different circumstances. Oops. So what this can look like now, based on some great conversations that we had with Credit Union One, who is also deeply vested in this community. They have available space. It is a little bit removed from our downtown, so when we're looking at a valet pilot, we kind of wanted to get something that was either close or in large numbers. So we're getting closer to that with Credit Union One and their partnership. When we looked at the proposal using lot number 11 between the library and City Hall, that was going to be about 30 spaces, whereas at Credit Union One, they have offered to let us use their front surface lot, which is 44 line spaces, and we kind of estimate we may be able to get a few more in there based on skilled parking, which I'm going to round up to 50 for our purposes. So we do get a little bit of a gain on that. However, it is a bit further. It's about a quarter mile from point A, which is where we propose to have the valet stand, to Credit Union One's front space there. So in terms of a person having to make that on foot nightly with every car, that starts to add up. So this would be the proposed route, though, just keeping these factors in mind. Based on public safety and proximity to the businesses and traffic flows, the the southwest corner of Vester and Bermuda seems to be the most proximate that is safe for the businesses, especially around Vester. And it's also not too far from the businesses that are even closer to the corner of 9 Mile and Woodward. So this makes an option close to most of those businesses who were affected by the closure of what was 141 Vester. And then, as we presented last week, the route for the valet would be to go south on Bermuda, turn at 9 Mile to Credit Union One. And then we've discussed some alternatives with the valet service provider and public safety on what the return route would look like. It seems more direct and speed efficient for them to go on 9 Mile to Woodward, up to Vester, and then end southbound back on Bermuda, just to keep traffic flowing in that direction. However, if problems present, we are prepared to recommend that they use East Troy to get to Woodward instead. So that would bypass backups at the lights on 9 Mile, but we do have both of those options. So in terms of what the revenue and cost analysis looks like, this is kind of our ideal situation with a very dynamic spreadsheet that I am happy to share with you because there are a lot of factors here. We're not sure about what demand may look like. We would hope that we can get around 50 to 60 cars. When we were looking at the lot 11 utilization, it was going to be anywhere from like 40 to 50 cars. So this gives us a little bit more in terms of our ability to meet that demand. However, the space consideration is going to require additional staffing. So I've highlighted here, if we're targeting for 60 cars and about 50 spaces a night, there's a revenue number up there if we fill all of those at $10 per vehicle. And then we're highlighting what we hope can be achievable with on average 4 staff members. There is a probability, though, that we're going to have to add a 5th partial member, just again to cover the distance for 1 car to be parked. That ends up being a half mile. So we have to figure out what that looks like for somebody to drive and walk that. But if the numbers work out, you see we will be absorbing a deficit for the DDA, but we believe in the businesses that made this downtown what it is. So we want to use this as a promotion to ensure their economic vitality. And then these are subject to change. If we reduce the number of nights, this is assuming that it would be 3 nights, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, with service starting at 6 p.m. and ending at midnight. So our next steps, this is still contingent on approval from City Council to offer the 5 on-street spaces on Bermuda at an hourly rate, and we would request for DDA to sponsor this program that it would waive the other valet daily costs. So there are some policies around that in the fee schedule. So in layman's terms, if this is just us leasing an hourly rate for 5 spots for 6 hours on those 3 days at the standard hourly rate. Once that is approved, and speaking with the service provider, we could get something set up as quickly as this Friday. We would do that would be a a first trial. We'll probably learn a lot the first weekend. We don't want to, have people's impression be only from that first weekend, since we would be turning this around in a matter of days. Alternatively, we could proceed to do the 22nd instead. This is based on, again, council's request and also what the businesses would like to see from this. We would probably stick to Friday and Saturday only in the month of May, and we would expect to adjust on that last weekend, which is Ferndale Pride, which will be that Saturday. I want to say that's the 29th, if not 30th, but that would be a possibility weekend to introduce Thursday and Friday and see how people respond to that. We do intend and have a commitment from the service provider to collect a lot of data on this. We have done valet programs in the past. They have been free of charge. They have been at different spaces. They have been a number of different factors. But we need to see kind of how people behave now in 2026. So we will be tracking the number of vehicles, the times. I would like to see how many passengers are in those vehicles, just to see, what kind of carpooling are we getting from people if we can keep this valet service affordable. And then also just feedback from the community. How is this going? How are the businesses seeing an adjustment with it? We'll continue to monitor that, and we do have this projected for a 3-month pilot, 12 weeks, and we'll adjust in the second month and then make a decision in third month if we go 3 more months, 6 months, what that looks like. We are continuing to explore other possibilities with this. As I mentioned, we do anticipate that there's going to be some staffing challenges with that. I'm not capable of running 5 to 7 miles every night, 3 nights in a row. So especially in warm weather, what is that going to look like? We are considering purchasing some scooters that would help to close that. We didn't want to use like a golf cart. That would be probably distracting for other drivers, and having a vehicle that makes a round didn't seem kind of Ferndale in spirit to have that kind of mileage just running back and forth and adding to traffic circulation. But we would hope something like a scooter or like bikes might help that, something that could close that gap to not make it so much on foot. We are continuing to explore shuttle models. This has been on our radar. We wanted to offer this, again, as an easy route for people to get closer to the businesses, folks that are traveling with mobility devices, small children, larger groups. If you're all going to be parking and then shuttling, what does that look like? We also need some input on how complex that shuttle route might look. So we would like to look into that. I think that there's a lot of possibility to do both of these. We're also open to adjusting this if we want to introduce more self-park options. This has been highlighted with the new opening of Bad Brad's Barbecue that is expected later this summer. What will self-park look like? I don't think those customers would want to go to Vester to valet and then not walk across the street. So we do have to understand what this looks like for Credit Union One, and we are really grateful for their partnership and their trust in exploring this with us. The city is pursuing other long-term permit considerations that a city manager is going to speak to later. But all in all, this data is going to help us to get a better impression of what parking now looks like on the east side in particular. There are some additional studies that we're looking at with MEDC based on other communities and then based on what the demand, supply, and possibilities are in this area. So any further questions or any questions?
The chair, Jenny, tell me a little bit more about the shuttle model. Like is the thought that they would be shuttled over to Credit Union One, and how much budget would that require? Do we need to hire a shuttle, or could we use a vehicle that we already have?
Very off the cuff, unofficial answers. The number of seats in the vehicle changes things, whether it has to be a commercial driver, what that insurance looks like. Are you getting into a passenger van? Are you getting into something smaller? Is it gas or electric? So that's one way that we have looked at other communities if they have electric vehicles. Like the city of Orlando is another example, has a really cool, it's almost like a small electric van that is approached like a golf cart I've seen people use there. It was a really interesting model that they allow to get around town. So that's one option, but it doesn't hold that many people versus something larger. You're gonna have to wait longer. So the questions we would have to answer is like, how many vehicles are there? How many drivers are there? How far are they going? What is that loop time going to be? If it's just an east and west, like from Credit Union 1, maybe stop at Woodward and then continue on to the west side, that back and forth turnaround time, we would still have to math out how long somebody's going to be waiting and how long they're going to, like how much time are they going to save on foot versus waiting for a shuttle. And then if we look at also serving other businesses, does it just go east and west? Is there something worth going and making like a loop around, you know, kind of the northeast quadrant and then the southwest quadrant? We can build in complexity or we can keep it really simple. So those are just things that we need to understand better what the demand is. Sorry to answer with so many more considerations, but that's all of that, you know, maths out.
And is this something that you're already actively exploring with the DDA board?
We have looked at it with parking. So Bruce Campbell, the director of Park Ferndale, and I have had a lot of conversations about this. We've both been looking at other communities to see what they have in practice. He has most recently been reaching out to others to see, you know, what kind of shuttles exist. And again, how far is the, you know, what distance are they covering? Is there a cost component to it? What, you know, there are just a lot of factors with that.
And one last question. Looking at the estimated net cost of $7,000 to $15,000 over 3 months, I know that this had been budgeted for up to $30,000. Did our costs go down because of the potential relationship with Credit Union 1?
Yes, they went down because we would not be paying for parking spaces. With the previous proposal, it would be an hourly surface lot lease rate. These would be in kind, donated from or made available in kind from Credit Union 1, but we have the additional staffing that eats up on that. So the staffing is about $2,300 a month, I want to say. So that kind of absorbs a little bit of that cost. So it doesn't go to zero, but it gets closer. And if we introduced more spaces or had some mix of valet, shuttle, self-park, what does that look like? There are a number of ways that we can kind of mix and match that, but step one would just be starting with the pilot, seeing how this works in a public-private partnership. And again, thanks to Credit Union 1 for trusting us to explore this with them.
And one last question. Could you go back to the map where the valet station is expected to be? Is there any way that we can move that a little bit closer to Woodward where people are coming off of Woodward and they can actually see it? Michael brought up a great point earlier that once they're on Vester Street, if they don't see the valet there, they may just turn back around or head north and head off on Breckenridge. I'm wondering if we can move that point a little bit closer to Woodward.
Yeah. Our intention with this is to have lots of signage, and then we will be working with what is allowable to sign that, making sure that people can be aware of it if you're driving to Woodward, that, hey, turn on Vester. One of the reasons why we also put it on Bermuda is that if somebody misses the Vester turn, they can continue up to Breckenridge and then turn back south on Bermuda, because otherwise they would have to, you know, if it were on Vester and you missed turning onto Vester, you would have to go to Breckenridge, turn back down, go to 9 Mile, and then back up. It would actually make that return route a little bit longer. And then as far as, that was one consideration about putting it on Bermuda that would be accessible from multiple side streets. There's also a public safety and traffic component to this. So Vester is now more narrow because we've got additional angled parking and it's one way. So the risk of there being a backup if there are, you know, 5 or 7 cars that are really in demand right then, where are they going to go? And we just didn't really have the space or width on Vester to do that.
That's fair.
And like also that it could possibly back up onto Woodward, which is a worse scenario.
And so this budget includes the cost for the additional signage on Vester?
It is not included in this operational budget. The DDA can absorb that with other promotional signage.
Okay.
Through the chair, I just first want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski for her work on this. We've been pushing for this and talking about this for 9 months, and she made one phone call and had a meeting set in 2 days, and we got the parking lot. So, thank you.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, that's impressive. And then what metrics will determine whether the pilot is successful?
Right now, I'd say we have measures. We don't have defined metrics for success or fail. I also think that with monitoring that in the first month, see what we can do to improve in the second month, see what we can do to improve in the third month, and take it in incremental steps like that. What success looks like long-term, on behalf of the DDA board, this is an investment in this district, but it is not the most sustainable if we stayed at spending $30,000 or more dollars per year. So I think the more that we look at that and see if, again, community feedback or business feedback is that this is not serving people in the way that they want, what are alternatives that we can do?
And then, so what does the contract look like with the valet company? So are we contracting with them for 3 months and they're flexible on how many people we use and?
We would have, right now, to start with, it would be like a daily contract. So right now, we're really taking it, I would say, like weekend by weekend. And if that stays in place, what does it look like longer term? But they were subject to the same agreements that would be required for insurance, licensed drivers, all of the same requirements that would be in a standard valet for any operation in the city. And the contractual for us would be like the labor rate.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to move forward and see the data and how it goes. And I just want to acknowledge that the DDA board was unanimous in their decision to support this project.
Through the chair, what is the cost of the valet? I forgot, I'm sorry.
For our purpose, we want to keep it fit for a customer.
For customer, yeah.
We want to keep it at $10. This is, again, the DDA would be absorbing the loss of that. If we increase the price, it doesn't get significantly more profitable, but it also feels worse. I myself am not one who is prone to like pay for valet. And even in talking to other communities, $10 feels approachable. It's equivalent to about 7 hours worth of parking, whereas you can park up to 6 with this.
Do we know the rates at the dot per hour?
I want to say, I know surface lot, I want to say is like 135. So I think the dot is close to that. I hear 125 in the back.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions I have. Well, no, but I don't think this is a question for you. I'm just kind of curious about the staffing parking needs of the businesses. Do we have an idea of the numbers? That's maybe, yeah, I don't know who that question is for, but I feel like it's appropriate and related. As our, was it Howard that said that, was it Howard that came?
Michael?
Michael, thank you. Said that the idea was fine. I also see that the Northeast Ferndale Business District said they would support it conditionally if their first 2 requests were addressed. So I'm not, yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. I think it's highlighting my confusion as to, do the businesses want it, or is it not addressing their immediate needs? And I think all of my questions are not for you. I appreciate the effort that you've put into this. It's given me a lot more information, a lot more to consider. I thank you.
And through the chair, just as a quick side note, I did speak to several business owners prior to this meeting, asking if they would be supportive of this valet program. They did say that yes, they are supportive of the valet program now that we are gaining spaces rather than taking away from spaces in a current surface lot, city lot. Additionally, they do still have their needs that we'll be discussing during the discussion portion, and they feel very staunchly about that.
Through the chair, this is not, it's not really for this, it's for the next one, but is Credit Union One's lease agreement only for use of valet parking, or would we be able to use it for other parking strategies?
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the one thing that we can't do is self-park over there. I believe that they weren't very comfortable with that concept. They would like to make sure that there's some level of management of that parking lot and oversight. But I believe that they're open to discussing possibilities with us.
Okay. And I do have another one through the chair. Is the valet management company they carry the liability insurance, or is the city responsible for, like, if something happens during?
So both parties would carry liability insurance in this particular case.
Okay. And not Credit Union One, they're not liable for anything, or they are? I don't know.
No, that's a specific condition of the lease agreement that the valet and the city would carry liability insurance coverage.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Well, what we didn't do is get a motion and second it beforehand.
I realize that.
So I guess we will do that now.
I move to approve the request from the Downtown Development Authority for reduced fees for on-street parking space rental during the downtown valet parking pilot program.
Support.
May we have a roll call, please?
Kelly.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Sabatini.
No.
Leaks May.
Yes. Make the motion to approve the request from the Downtown Development Authority for reduced fees for on-street parking space rental during the downtown valet parking pilot program has been approved. Votes 3-1.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Go to where our next. Private parking lease agreement. So this motion is to approve the parking lease agreement with Credit Union One for a period of 3 months with up to 3 one-year options to renew. Authorize the city manager and city attorney to further negotiate additional terms for agreement, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. May we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
So this is just the draft lease agreement with Credit Union One. It is still with their legal counsel, so I can't say that this is the final form of the agreement, but the intent here was that waiting on a city council meeting shouldn't be the stalling point for getting this rolled out, knowing how important finding additional parking solutions are to our downtown businesses. So this is a request to approve what we believe to be in earnest, very close to likely the final version of an agreement, but pending review and approval by Credit Union One's legal counsel, and obviously the final conditions associated with the in-kind support that we will offer in exchange for those services.
Had discussion, so any other questions before we move to a roll call?
Through the chair, I have one. Do we know what specifically the in-kind is, or the sponsor?
Yes, I do have a draft for that now. It just got finalized today. Essentially, there'll be promotions associated, so featured logos and promotions associated with the actual valet stand itself, press release, social media promotions, largely through the DDA's social media channels, and then in-kind sponsorship for the Kids Zone at Woodward Dream Cruise on behalf of the city.
Okay. Do we have the value of those benefits?
Somewhere in the range of about $5,000 in total. The promotional items don't have a net cost to us, so we just use the rough cost of what it would cost to do that type of promotion or sponsor something like this otherwise.
So through the chair, we're not paying for advertising or creating something for them. We are not coming out of pocket for this. This is literally just the ability to promote Credit Union One as a good community partner on the valet stand as well as in other areas.
100%.
Okay.
Through the chair, I think, I respectfully disagree with that. We are paying for advertising, in a way. Good, they're a good community partner, though I think that that's maybe a semantic point that we disagree on, which is fine. I would like, maybe there's something already in there, to use Credit Union One, or to ask Credit Union One if we can use that lot for something other than valet.
At this time, they have not expressed comfort with that. The valet pilot program is really our foray into having that conversation. I think if we can show that we're good partners and responsibly use this property, there may be conversations that could be had about opening that up. But there did not seem to be interest in our most recent conversation around just allowing open parking in their private lot.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I will say that Credit Union One, actually for events and things like that, for organizations, they've been very open to having the valet parking. But I'd be interested to see if we can pursue something more permanent in the future. Who knows? It could happen. You went in there once. Who knows? Maybe it can happen again, so.
Through the chair, the takeaway that I had during our discussion with Credit Union One, you know, they were gracious enough to answer the phone. They were gracious enough to have the meeting. And I think there's a fear that, again, this is it's a credit union, which means it has members. They want to make sure that their members are being served appropriately. They want to make sure that we are not going to have anything negative happen to their property. They obviously, there's a vested interest in making sure that their membership is able to get in and out. They don't want to have overnight parking there, which is part of the overall benefit of having valet parking, to get people in and make sure that they get back out and that parking lot is empty at the end of the night. If we don't have some level of management with that parking lot and with that arrangement, I think that would be something that they would be discomforted by. They would be a little bit leery of entering into something where folks are just parking on their own. They also expressed a little bit of concern that folks using their ATM might not be able to get to the ATM. So in this pilot program, we would have to make sure that if we're moving forward with this, that we take into account if anybody is being blocked to get into the ATM. So there's some logistical elements there. And I can understand their concerns. I mean, this is a big unknown. Most of their valet efforts have been around, what was it, Dream Cruise that they do valet? So during daylight hours, nothing, to my knowledge, nothing at night. So there could just be a little bit of protectiveness of their area for that. But again, I commend them for at least being willing to answer the phone. It always helps to have a human-to-human conversation and to take the time and meet with us, you know, the past Monday that we met. And again, I think that this is a nice opportunity to at least get data and see if this is worthwhile. Maybe it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know until we actually see if there's good utilization of this. I heard from one of our business owners, Jane Noon, that he doesn't believe Ferndale's a valet town. He could be right, for all I know.
Through the chair, if the data shows that this is successful, is Credit Union One, did they seem open to a long-term agreement? I mean, I'm confused as if this is like, I'm trying to understand if this is a short-term, if valet in general, a Credit Union One lot is tied to that, so is it a short-term solution until we find a more permanent one, or could this potentially become a permanent solution?
Through the chair, if I may, I think all of the above. I mean, tonight we discussed more permanent solutions like a potential parking structure. We've also discussed things like wherever Jenny went, oh, there you are, like shuttle service. With the fact that they are willing to at least look at a lease agreement with the option to 3 one-year options to renew, I think indicates a willingness to at least be a good community partner and explore options. Do I think that they would open our lot to us permanently as like, I don't know, a self-parking lot? I don't think that that's feasible. But I think some sort of managed solution is something that they would be interested in, or at least amenable to having a conversation.
Through the chair, I credit your efforts, Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski, in brokering this agreement, and credit Union One for coming to the table and working something out. I'm curious, is there something in the agreement that allows them to tell us, valet's off, we've got an event, and, you know, how much notice do they have to give us? What can trigger that?
Yes, they did indicate that they would not want valet services for any of the community events that they've already committed to allowing to use their surface lots. But otherwise, the only other out, so to speak, would be the standard termination clause, which gives non-renewal during the initial 3-month period of 30 days or 60 days if it's one of the future 1-year extensions.
Okay. So if another community event is added to their calendar suddenly?
I think we would probably work with them. It depends on the nature of the community event. It may not make sense for us to be operating a valet during some of these events when we know that parking is going to be at a premium, and trying to logistically operate that makes less sense than just letting it operate as a surface lot during that time.
Do we need anything in the agreement to that end?
Yes, there is already language in the agreement that they don't specifically state which special events in the agreement would qualify, just that they, reserve the right or requesting that they will provide what events they intend to use the lot for, or really donate the lot for to other community events.
Okay, and is there a timeline of how much of a heads up they'll give us? A week, 2 weeks?
We can add in specific language.
We need
we'd
to, I
probably,
don't
yeah,
know.
we'd probably want at least 7 days' notice.
Okay.
This is really, you're really.
Well, through the chair, I apologize. I mean, I happen to agree with Jay Noon. I haven't spoken with him. I don't think Ferndale is a valet town. I can't afford $10 valet parking when it's $1.25 to park at the dot. But maybe it's catering to somebody who can, and that's fine too. If it benefits the businesses, great. I hope that it does work. I would be more comfortable if I was sure the businesses are behind this. I appreciate that the DDA has vetted it, and valet is passed. I support it and root for it. I think relying on private partnerships gives me pause. As good of a community partner as they are, it's their lot. It doesn't feel like a permanent solution for us and our community. But hopefully I'm wrong. I know we have other stuff to get to, so I apologize for dragging this out. I've got a lot more thoughts on it, but, maybe now is not the time for it. Let's give it a shot and see where it goes.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. It's been moved and supported. May we have a roll call, please?
Kelly,
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Sabatini,
Abstain.
Leaks May.
Yes. All right. the motion to approve the parking lease agreement with Credit Union 1 for a period of 3 months with up to 3 one-year options to renew, and authorize the city manager and city attorney to further negotiate additional terms for the agreement, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement has been approved with the motion passing 3 with 1 abstention. We are moving on to item 8D. Hold on, let me grab that real quick. The consideration to approve the bid award for the 9-mile DDA sidewalk and concrete improvement project to JB Contractors in the amount of $625,000, with the cost to be split between major street funds and Downtown Development Authority Fund, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the contract documents following approval by the city attorney. We'll need a motion.
I move to approve the bid award for the 9-mile DDA sidewalk and concrete improvement project to JB Contractors in the total amount of $625,000, with the cost to be split between major street funds and Downtown Development Authority Fund, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute contract documents following approval by the city attorney.
Support.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Jenny's here. She's going to answer some questions. I'm going to kind of run through most of the slides, and then we'll invite Jenny up to answer anything regarding the grant, some of the communication she's been doing with businesses. So, purpose of this program, Downtown Sidewalk Improvement Project combines DDA-funded sidewalk and paver replacement, as well as city-funded curb and driveway work that is tied to the future Surface Transportation Program grant-funded project to resurface West 9 Mile from Woodward to Livernois, and that construction is scheduled for next year. So this construction approach will reduce repeat disruption. It will avoid duplicate mobilization for sidewalk work. It'll shorten the future roadway construction timeline next year. And importantly, this addresses and capitalizes on grant funding to address aging sidewalks and infrastructure in our downtown. So context, downtown 9 Mile infrastructure conditions currently include deteriorated pavers, cracked and lifted sidewalks, end-of-life curb and gutter, ADA deficiencies at crossings and driveways, some settlement, accessibility concerns, drainage issues. I've included a picture, and I'm going to show this same corner in 3 different slides to just kind of highlight what the project actually looks like. So you can see here a deteriorated sidewalk, a ramp that's actually out of compliance that connects to a driveway that you can't see yet. There's pavers there, and there's actually an old pole left in the pavers that's going to be removed as well as part of this project. So the project limits our 9 Mile from Livernois Street west to Leland Street east. So why are we bundling the work? Well, the future 9 Mile surface transportation project already requires curb work and driveway approach work. Completing this work now will allow the city to reduce overall construction duration next year. Anytime you're working downtown, it's disruptive. If you can remove a few weeks, potentially a month from that program by doing this work in line with the sidewalk work this year, that's just better for the businesses and pedestrians downtown. So this will also avoid damaging newly replaced sidewalk during pavement restoration. We'll be doing some of the work in the curb and the gutter and the driveways, and if you look at this picture, you can see those brick pavers are coming up. There's going to be new fresh concrete poured. We're going to have to demo the curb and gutter eventually. If we do it next year, we could potentially damage sidewalk and then have to replace what we just installed this year. So this also takes advantage of the current mobilization. Importantly, with what's going on right now, this will reduce our exposure to inflationary and construction costs next year. What we spend this year, we know will be cheaper than what we spend next year just due to inflation. So project scope, again, this is a picture of the same corner. We're doing sidewalk, paver replacement, ADA ramp and accessibility upgrades, curb, gutter, driveway reconstruction. There's some old wayfinding structures that will be removed. At the same time, pavement restoration and patching will occur. There are slope crossing improvements, and there are some ADA parking improvements, all part of this work. And just quickly, if you look at the picture, green and orange is the driveway, curb and gutter work that the city will pay for the cost out of major road funds because it would be work that has to occur next year regardless. And then pink and rose colored are the DDA sidewalk and paver funding, and that's part of the grant funded portion of the program. And then the red X is on one of the sign bases that is getting removed as we do the sidewalks. So this construction is phased to maintain pedestrian and business access as well, and I'll mention that a few times. So a mid-block crossing improvement, this is kind of a concept that was hard to explain to the DDA board. I think we just didn't have an overhead example of what it is, but if you look at the a little bit blurry line over there, there's a pink line that's showing from the curb to the business front is about a 2 and change foot drop. That presents a 10% slope for the entire sidewalk. So what this project will do is it will even out between the first flag between the building and the rail. There will be a 6-foot walking path that will be level for everyone. And then in order to have a compliant slope coming into the Rainbow Crosswalk mid-block, we will add handrails and a ramp. So that'll have a gradual slope so anyone can enter, go down the ramp, get to the crosswalk without having a larger slope. So this is a new 90-degree ADA ramp, handrail. This will improve the accessible route. And then added to that, we will be adding a new north side ADA parking spot, and then we'll be relocating the south side ADA parking to an area that's a little bit more ADA friendly. Right now, it's not in a great location. It's kind of wedged really close to a patio section with a business on the south side of the street. So we're actually going to move a little bit closer to the crosswalk, an area where we have more space to work with the ramp. So construction phasing, we gave a lot of thoughts to this. We have events downtown. A lot of those events take up West 9 Mile. So phase 1 of this project is going to occur June through July. We're going to begin on the south side of the street. So after Pride, work begins. Before Dream Cruise, work ends. That'll be the first phase. Phase 2, September through November, we'll be working on the north side of the street. We start on the south side of the street because we're front-loading the project. We have more work on the south side of the street, so I want to make sure that we get it done in that 2-month period of time, because the second phase of the project, we're always working with Mother Nature, and we want to make sure that we're out of there before it's too cold to do this work. So, and again, that'll occur after DIY and Funky Ferndale, and then we expect that project to be completed in late fall. This scheduling is intended to reduce event conflicts, minimize downtown disruption. We want to compress the overall construction timeline, and then we want to, importantly, we intend to reopen the roadway to two-way traffic by the end of every construction day. And at the end of this, I'll show a map that goes over the entire scope, and then I'll explain how that one-way traffic during construction will look. So typical sidewalk replacement process, I'm not going to go over every single picture, but I just wanted to provide a little bit of context. So saw cut, concrete removal, base prep, formwork, pour new concrete, finished concrete, allow that concrete to cure. It's a pretty simple process, but there are multiple steps. One difference in downtown construction is we're not just going to leave an open hole. The contractor is going to fill that in with gravel. So at the end of every day, there will be a walking path on the sidewalk for pedestrians to get to business fronts, to just walk downtown. The goal is always to restore access as quickly as possible by putting stone in the excavated sidewalk flags. We're going to minimize the impacts to business operations by keeping those sidewalks open. And then we're also going to make sure that concrete is poured. The cutoff for concrete pouring is early in the day to prevent someone from damaging it later on, whether they walk through it on accident or they decide to put their feet or hands in it or something like that, because that just extends the project. Entryway construction, I bring this up because there are 10 businesses that do have a little bit more disruption than others because there's sidewalk work occurring in front of their entrance. It is 10, and about 7 of those have rear easement access, or I'm sorry, a rear entrance, whether that's through the Withington Alley or Troy Street. DPW is reaching out to them early, as in this week. I intend to talk to every business owner that is affected and store manager, property owner, whoever is the best person to talk to. And then we're going to work with them to ensure that construction is scheduled with them, in conjunction with them, and they have plenty of notice, because we do understand that this work is disruptive, especially to those business owners. So the funding structure, $625K total. Oakland County Placemaking and Public Spaces grant through ARPA is paying for approximately $199,000 of the work, which I believe is a 40-60 split for the DDA and grant funding portion, and that's not including the city major road funded work. Downtown Development Authority is paying for approximately $298,000, and that's local match funding for that grant. This supports downtown sidewalk, concrete improvements. That's what the Oakland County Placemaking supports as well. And then again, City Major Road Fund will pay for approximately $129,000, mostly for future STP-related curb, driveway, and gutter work. So the cost, context, and bidding. 2026 proposed program, the low bid was JB Contractors at $625,000. The high bid was Great Lakes Construction, who we have used in the past. They were a subcontractor that did sidewalk work and some cement work for Ajax last year on our local paving program. They do good work as well. They were a little bit higher at $647,000. Engineering estimate was $593,000. These are both a little bit above that. We underestimated the amount of driveway, gutter, some of the other work that needed to happen for the road construction next year. So JB Contractors, we're recommending them. They have strong references. One of the stronger references is that they worked with Giffords Webster Engineering in the downtown Brighton streetscape work. 2026 9 Mile Downtown Sidewalk Program map. 9 Mile Road from Livernois Street to Leland Street. The green line is the entire segment that will be sidewalks replaced. So phase one, again, they'll be working on the south side so that we will keep westbound traffic. We're not going to move traffic into opposite lanes. So when the southbound lane, so basically the center line will be split to the south. That first lane of traffic will be used to do construction and staging. Again, typically that will be opened at the end of every construction day. And then parking on the south side will be used to stage materials, construction equipment, some other things, but there will almost always be, unless something happens, two-way traffic at the end of each day. Phase two north, traffic will go back to eastbound. So just a summary, and then we'll take some questions. Sidewalk project is combining downtown sidewalk improvements with future paving work in 2027. The benefits here include reduced future disruption, coordinated construction sequencing, some ADA accessibility improvements, life cycle infrastructure replacement, leverages DDA and grant funding, combines that with major road funding. JB Contractors, again, lowest responsive bid, strong downtown references, and then the action requested, reminder is to approve the contract work or to JB Contractors for $625,000. So, happy to take questions.
Through the chair, I just have one real quick one. Is it common to only get 2 bids back? It seems quite low.
So it is for this type of work. I think we had 9 bids. We'll bring the residential sidewalk program in front of council at the end of May, so the next meeting. You get more for those because they're much less complicated. With more complexity, with more parameters to kind of minimize disruption, it's really more headaches for contractors. You'll pay a little bit more for that work, and then you're not going to get as many competitive bids because there are companies that just want to come in, run through 20 blocks, and just kind of get done with it. This is a very complicated staging. There's road construction. We try to open up those lanes at the end of every day. There's just a smaller pool for work like this.
Through the chair, I'm going to piggyback on that. I mean, could we talk to the group that is doing our residential sidewalks and see if we could tack this on? Like, could they do a special scope for us? Or can we only accept whoever has bid on our contracts?
So I can answer one of those. I think the second one is for legal. But I would say that the first, so the residential program, off the top of my head, I think it was $8.33 for 4-inch sidewalk. Ours is locked in, unit pricing at 9. The residential is actually paying a higher price per square foot for 8-inch concrete because there's less of it. I'm not sure the residential program would even want to do that work or be willing to do that work, but at the same time, unit cost shows that we're actually pretty close for the concrete. So we're doing 25,000 square foot of sidewalk for this program, and the cost is going to be pretty similar whether it's this contractor or the residential contractor that does it. The difference is really the traffic staging. It's all the extra stuff. I should have included a slide that actually showed the unit cost for this project, but that is included with the consent or regular agenda item. There's just a lot of little things, but if you look at unit cost, residential for that actual work is pretty comparable to the pricing that we got through this bid. Second question I can't answer.
Colleen, I think that's a you question, or actually legal counsel.
It would need to, the residential sidewalk company, it would need to go back out to bid. I mean, we wouldn't be able to just unilaterally ask them to bid on it when we had sent out, bid requests and the two had already submitted, for this scope of work. They would need to want to bid on it and bid on it.
Are they active at the same time?
What's that?
Bids?
No, the residential sidewalk bid predated the downtown sidewalk program. And then I'll say too that I probably could have saved an answer by just saying that the timeline wouldn't really be feasible either. We're trying to get this work done the week after Pride, and that really gives us 4 to 5 weeks to get approval and then to have a contract in hand and kind of schedule that work. So I would be fearful that if we did rebid it, we would totally miss that first phase, and then we may not even see a cost savings.
And through the chair, one additional question. I think this is probably a Colleen question. I know the DDA is funding the bulk of this, and that the cost from the city side would be coming from major road funds. That's gas tax money, right?
Correct.
Gas tax and vehicle registration. So we're looking at not using property tax revenue to pay for this, just gas tax revenue and vehicle registration fees, which again are passed to us from the state.
Yep, Act $51.
Through the chair, would you please go to the slide? I think there was a slide that explained what the major road fund dollars were going to, with the specific work. It was the curb cut portion.
Curb,
There was a
driveway, and
picture
gutter
of it, I
work.
thought.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So this is a good example of it, but the green and the orange is typically what the 139,000 goes into.
Okay, thank you. Where is the, where's the road in relation to that?
So the road is below the orange line,
Okay.
and then if we go back, this is that exact corner at the Ferndale Foods lot.
Okay, okay. Are we worried, or, what are the chances that, we do that little flag area, and then when we go to replace 9 Mile, that gets damaged, and we have to do it again?
We're not. The sequence for construction, usually with a pavement, milling and filling is what you would call it. Just, you mill everything up, you start at the gutter. Then you protect the gutter because that's where the milling machine stops, and then everything gets paved up to that point. The first step of the process, usually in these type of things, as we've done in the last few years of the local paving program, is to do the gutter work prior to milling and then prior to putting down asphalt. So the possibility is there, but not very high because that milling equipment is very, very accurate, and any repairs that they have to do comes out of their end. So it's, yes.
Okay.
So it's not something that happens very often.
Okay, but that's good to know that any repairs that do have to happen come out of their end. That's really good to know. Thank you.
Questions?
Through the chair, to chime in, first of all, thanks very much to Jim and DPW. This kind of partnership makes our projects in the DDA possible. We would not have the kind of expertise to handle the scope of this project, but we are really pleased that we were able to apply for the grant that makes this possible. Our funding from the DDA does come from ARPA dollars that were allocated through a competitive process with Main Street, through Main Street, Oakland County, and the Oakland County Commissioners. So with the question of putting this back out to bid for our purposes, our match funding has to be spent by the end of the county's fiscal year, which would end in October. So if we had to go back out to bid, it would greatly jeopardize the likelihood we would get half of this done, and then we would end up foregoing some of our grant funding. This is also in conjunction with our wayfinding. So when we put the grant forward with the DDA, the proposal, it included redesign of wayfinding that will also be installed later this fall. So we are really sensitive to that as well, making sure that we're not, putting something down and then cutting something up immediately, but making sure that we can implement both projects in an effective and time-sensitive manner.
All right, so we had a motion moved and it was seconded. Can we have a roll call, please, on this one?
Kelly,
Yes.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Sabatini,
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. The motion to approve the bid award for the 9-mile DDA sidewalk and concrete improvement project, JB contractors in the total amount of $625,000, with the cost split between major street funds and Downtown Development Authority, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the contract documents following approval by the city attorney has been moved and passed with a vote 4-0 in favor. All right.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Now, we have some discussion items. First one being the downtown parking. with the
As
city
if we haven't
manager.
talked enough about it tonight.
No suggested action, but who knows, right? Okay.
Excuse me. Okay. So this conversation tonight, there are no specific actions associated with it, precisely because none of the costs associated with the recommendations here exceed the authority that my office has to just execute, and it's all largely programmatic changes. What are we trying to address? Specifically, we have business owners in the northeast quadrant who've indicated some concerns regarding the availability of parking. We've heard from a few of them tonight, but I did have a chance to meet with 3 of them 2 weeks ago who indicated that they represent a consortium of businesses in that northeast quadrant. And they have formulated specific asks as a result of conversations that they've had internally. The utilization rate data that we have for the northeast quadrant, specifically lots 13 and 15, does show that there is a capacity concern during peak periods, specifically Thursday through Saturday evenings. And there's also obviously the concern that the completion of 141 Vester will exacerbate the existing conditions because the development was not approved at a 1-to-1 parking ratio. So what has the business consortium asked us? 1, they've asked that we restrict the permitted uses in lots 13 and 15. 2, they've asked that we implement an employee parking pilot program. And 3, they've asked that we implement the valet parking pilot program. We've obviously already talked about the valet parking program, so I'll focus more on 1 and 2 for this discussion. Addressing challenge number 1 or question number 1, is the surface lot restriction, so lot 13 and 15. And really quickly, for everyone's knowledge, this is lot 13, that is on 9 Mile, just east of Woodward, and lot 15, which is on Breckenridge, just east of Woodward. Again, the ask here is to eliminate overnight parking, to cap the daytime permits at 20%, to limit permit use to Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., except for business flex permits, and then to clearly display time restrictions for permits and enforce them. Some of the challenges we saw in reviewing this is obviously the impact that changes in enforcement would have to the daytime businesses, so developing a solution that was mindful to that, and then the need for existing businesses to assist us in communicating these expectations to the staff, because compliance really comes down to their own staff following the directions that we outline. In reviewing the ask and those challenges, we did determine that it would be appropriate to add restrictions to what is the traditional long-term parking permit. This would restrict parking specifically in lot 13 and 15 after 5 p.m. Thursday through Saturday. It would not add any other restrictions to the existing long-term parking spaces that are available, and it does include several nearby lots. This lines up with what we've seen in the utilization data in terms of after 5 p.m. usage or evening usage by long-term permit holders. It does drop off in the evenings. And then further, per the request, limiting the total number of spaces in lot 13 and 15. Currently, lot 13 has 14 long-term eligible spaces. This is about 33% of the lot. Based on utilization, we believe this could be reduced to 11, which represents 26% of eligible spaces. And then in lot 15, currently all 52 spaces are long-term eligible. Presumably at the time that this was developed, lot 15 was viewed as the outlot. At this time, lot 15 has become very comparable to lot 13 in terms of its utilization, and things like lot 1 and the City Hall lot are the underutilized spaces. So we would reduce from all 52 spaces to 12 spaces being used being long-term eligible. Again, this is just in reference to evening hours, so not trying to restrict daytime traffic. The cost for this is largely exclusive to new signage and the admin time that would go into creating those permits and installing the new signage. The second ask was the launch of an employee parking pilot program, so specifically relocating employee parking away from high-demand areas. The recommendations were to use the west side of Bermuda and the north side of Breckenridge, provide a visible employee parking pass as part of this program, and allow those permitted vehicles to park without ticketing. The challenges we saw here were the high prevalence of residential properties and specifically residential driveways on Breckenridge, which would impact the turn radii if there was parking on both the north side and the south side of the street. The question of public safety routes, having sufficient widths for our public safety vehicles to travel, and then just the overall resident impact and notice to residents in those districts. What we concluded is that some changes could be permitted or feasible, specifically looking at changes that would potentially be less impactful to residents on Breckenridge. So one would be establishing the new employee peak hours permit. So this would be a special use permit specifically for peak hours, which would be after 4 p.m. Thursdays through Saturdays, and then allowing those permit holders to park in Lot 1, which is the West Breckenridge parking lot across Woodward Avenue, Lot 11, which is the City Hall parking lot, and then 2 new on-street spaces on Bermuda, not entirely new on Breckenridge, but a repurposed parking space on Breckenridge. Currently on Breckenridge, there is 2-hour parking until midnight or residential permit holder parking. So the 2-hour parking is geared towards visitors. It could be a high turnover location during peak hours. We would propose changing that to residential or employee only, which would actually reduce the amount of traffic we would expect to see. We expect would reduce the amount of traffic to residents as there'll be less turnover from employees parking for longer periods of time. The cost for this would be just new signage, new striping, and changes to enforcement. This is kind of what we talked about at our last discussion, with about a $3,000 annual cost for the additional enforcement, and then maybe a one-time cost of $2,000 to $4,000 for striping. And this is what those permit zones would look like. So again, parking lot 1 on the west side of Woodward, the City Hall parking lot 11, and then the 2 on-street parking zones. The on-street parking zone for Bermuda is anticipated to add to the system about 8 to 9 spaces, depending on, how the angles of the striping work. Other considerations we looked at, so not specifically requested, but we did look into, additional spaces that we believe could be created in the following locations. One is on Breckenridge on the south side of the street, west of the alley entrance. So directly north of the fly trap, there's 1 space lined now. We believe that could be relined to fit 2 to 3 cars. Lot 13 has 2 entrances. Let's see, you can see has 2 entrances, one off of Breckenridge and one off the alley. Closing off the entrance off the alley just using concrete parking blocks could generate potentially 3 additional spaces. And then something we've already discussed and approved to move forward with is the additional spaces on Vester once 141 Vester is completed. And this is actually a smaller block, and it would run the whole frontage of this. And that's anticipated to add 8 to 12 spaces, depending on the layout of a handicap space that we determine would need to fit in there as well. All of these have a low upfront cost to us. There would be one-time striping and the cost of the parking lots. It would really only be more costly if we decide that we want to make that Breckenridge lot change permanent with a change in the configuration of the concrete curb. This is what all the areas look like together. So again, in green, all of the additional parking areas. In pink is what is an existing parking area but would have changes to those restrictions. Blue is new proposed permit parking. And then as we discussed, the proposed valet parking stand. Any questions? Go ahead.
Through the chair, so many. Sorry, so that's my first time seeing this presentation, though, so I need to digest that first. That spot, there's no way you could fit 3 spots in that little fly trap. Like, are they diagonal?
No, they'd be parallel. I actually received a picture from one of the business owners showing 3 cars parked there.
Really?
So it would be getting, I mean, you would be.
I'll forward it, but yeah, and there's still space on each side of the, and each side of the cars. So 3 cars parked, space. I'm not a traffic engineer, so I can't say that's enough angle, but I feel confident we can at least get 2, potentially 3, depending on the angle.
Right now, they have those.
They have 1. It's a very sharp angle.
Yeah, it was just there.
Yeah.
They have the triangles.
Yep.
With the caution lines, I guess, to prevent people from parking there.
Yeah.
So you would lose those. Does that create dangerous situation?
You wouldn't lose them. It would be restriped. So there would be a different. The angle would change. We're going to go back to high school geometry. I'm not going to do the math on that. But the angles would change on the interior angles of the triangle.
I would love to see that picture. I want to see if it's 2 Suburbans or 3 smart cars.
There's at least 1 Suburban in there. So I'll tell you that.
All right. I stand corrected. Bermuda, are those angled spots or parallel spots?
Parallel spots.
Parallel, okay. The red portion runs to Bermuda, and then Breckenridge, east of Bermuda to, I think it's Leland. That's all residential. I forget what the permitting is there. I think it's resident permit parking only 4 to midnight.
Yeah.
None of those houses have driveways on that south side of Breckenridge. I'm wondering what the anticipated overspill from folks parking. Well, actually, the red is proposed for just
employees.
Just employees?
This new employee flex.
Okay, so maybe it's less of a concern. But I just wonder like what the spillover might be onto Breckenridge east of Bermuda. You know, if folks are going and, they can't park here, but now go park on Breckenridge North. So I guess my question or my thought or my hope would be that parking enforcement for those residents would be very strict and effective.
Yes, and that was part of the reason that we noted that there'd be an increase to our enforcement costs, because adding the new area in Bermuda and the changes to Breckenridge would necessitate more enforcement time in those districts.
Right. I think a lot of my other questions relate to numbers that I don't think we have yet, so I guess I'll follow up on those, or with those. Yeah. Thank you.
So next steps from here would be for me to meet again with the business community and go over this this plan with them. I've already started working with parking on what that special permit could look like, and I anticipate that this is something we would be, the new permit would be something that we'd be ready to roll out within a couple of weeks. Really, just the timeline has to do with striping and signage. So all things that are very manageable for us. And
The only one that really gives me hesitation is Breckenridge, the changes to the existing rules up there. I mean, that parking's dense as is, and I wonder who's using it. Is it visitors? And that would be employee-only parking.
employee and resident.
Employee and resident, okay.
Yeah, so right now it is 2-hour parking for anyone and residential parking. The thought process was by making it employee and residential only, we would hopefully actually reduce the amount of turnover and traffic on that block. It may mean certain vehicles are parked for longer than they are now, but that's kind of the trade-off to consider in that.
Yeah. And let's just say hypothetical that we do these things and we hate it, and everybody hates it. How easy is it to just switch it all back?
We have our own sign shop.
Through the chair, I think to that point, this is like a very important issue. It's been an issue for years. I wonder if there's value in a town hall to bring in residents, to bring in business owners. Like, I appreciate that you are meeting with them independently, but a group discussion on a permanent solution, followed by obviously collecting real world data, you can't replace, you can't discuss that, but, similar to what we did for, I think it was Flock or Axon, I forget. It was a lifetime ago. But I think there'd be value in that if others support it. I had another question, the usage stats that you showed. Is that account for traffic, resident occupancy of Vester once it's open and operating at full capacity, or is that prior to that?
All of this utilization data is prior to Vester, so as noted, it will get worse.
Okay, so something we need to consider when we're, okay, thanks.
Thank you for speaking with the businesses and kind of getting their feedback. And we'll see what happens. Okay. All right. Discussion item 9B, the city council appointment. Let me go to that.
Well, I'll kind of kick it off in terms of where we are in the process and where we need to get to. Obviously, we had a lot of exceptional applicants, exceptional speakers, and presenters at our special meeting. At this point, we do have to make a determination to fill one vacant seat no later than the May 26th city council meeting. My recommendation to council at this time to help us continue to narrow down that candidate pool is to hopefully have that conversation now to narrow our list to no more than 3 to 5 candidates, possibly starting with each of you identifying who your top 1 to 2 picks are, and then seeing where we have overlaps and whether we want to add additional candidates to that pool. And then once I've identified that list, welcoming those individuals back again to present, perhaps this time less structured and more conversational.
So first, I'll start off by saying that we know that there were a very large number of candidates that applied for this position. And we were in the difficult position to have to narrow it down. Some of us narrowed it down to 1 to 2, some of us narrowed it down to 3. I've narrowed mine down to 6, so I'm not as far as any of them. But I just want you to know that, well, whereas we cannot choose all of you, we only can choose one candidate. I do hope that you'll all stay involved. We have boards and commissions that need good people like yourself. I want to thank the community for actually reaching out and emailing probably all of us with recommendations for the candidates that you've selected. So some of you even got, some of the people that emailed us recommended 2 candidates at once and told us to select. So I just want you to know that although this was difficult, we are being intentional and we are thinking about who we want to serve. And if you are not selected, please do consider serving in other capacities in the future. All right. So with that being said, we did come up with a specific pool. If anyone wants to start, or I will start with my top 6. Okay. All right. So I chose, after listening to the tape over again and looking over the applications over the weekend, my top 6, and this is in no particular order. My top 6 is Nina LaSalle, Renee Townsend, Mary Onifer, Chris Hall, Bill Price, and Krista Johnston. Now, I've not yet to narrow those down to 3 to 5, but I guess once we see where we kind of align, we'll take it from there. So anyone else would like to go? Anyone?
You want to go next?
I'm sorry, me? Oh, yeah,
Anyone.
sure, okay. So I want to speak a little bit about my process, I guess, first. Thank you to all who have applied. The decision to show up and speak on public record in front of the whole city is no small feat. You've opened yourselves up to public scrutiny, and I applaud your efforts. It's been said before, I'll say it again, it's worth repeating. A ton of great applicants, all great applicants, great resumes. I think everybody has something that would benefit council in the city. So in many ways, I think we're splitting hairs. All candidates have backgrounds that would, and characteristics that would make for dedicated, good and dedicated public servant. So I feel personally the role of city council as community advocates is to bring representative, bring forward representatives to serve. That's what we're looking for. So there is no perfect resume. I've looked at skills of leadership, diversity, representation. I put a lot of weight on the presentations, not how well you spoke, but how thoughtful your preparation was and the content therein. So all that to say, I have more thoughts, but I'll just cut to the chase. I have narrowed it down to a top 5. And I've listed it in alphabetical order by first name. So I don't have a order yet. Andrea Popovic, Bill Price, Christopher Hall, Jim McGlucky, and Michelle Donaldson.
Guess I'll go next. When I was looking at this appointment, I was focusing on skill sets that best complement this current council and where I think we have gaps. So for me, of all the candidates, I really liked Renee. She stood out to me because of both her professional background and her personal perspective. Having someone with legal experience on council, especially on the ordinance committee, would be incredibly valuable. And I believe she could immediately jump in and strengthen the work that we're already doing. As many of you know, I was disappointed with our immigration ordinance, and I think if she was on the ordinance committee as a progressive attorney, maybe we could have pushed back on some things and had it be a little bit stronger. I also value representation, as Councilmember Sabatini mentioned. I like that she is Chaldean and LGBTQ. That lived experience and diverse perspective matters, and I think it would make our council stronger. I was also impressed with Nina. I appreciated her experience, background around budgeting, fiscal responsibility, reallocation through Oakland County. And Chris would be in my top three. He's someone I really value and I respect. He consistently shows up. He's been to what feels like every commission meeting, almost every council meeting since I've been here, Fern and Learn maybe twice. And he clearly cares deeply about our community. I also love Michelle and all her advocacy work. She's one bad woman, and I would be honored to serve with her as well. And then I would go to Jim. He also shows up. He had a thoughtful perspective around infrastructure, technology, trees, community spaces. His mindset around investing in our future generations really hit home to me. And then I just wanted to recognize Ricky and the work that he's doing advocating for the trans and LGBTQ community. That's important to me, and I appreciate that. And your passion around affordability, inclusion, and representation matters, and I appreciate you. So my top 4, I guess. Top 3 would be.
Okay. All right,
Well, I think you named 5. So yeah.
Well, Ricky, yeah.
I think I got 5 from you from that conversation, in order.
In order, okay, good.
All right, I'll round us out. I echo what everybody says. This was tough. I never would have expected that many people to apply. Ricky, you had me at backyard chickens because that's my sweet spot. But I did have to narrow this down to a top 5. I will tell you, Renee Townsend hit my top 5, and I just didn't expect to find a lawyer that carries with her the progressive values that I think would be really critical and has that valuable legal perspective that can go through all of our contracts. I will tell you personally, this weekend, I spent from 9 a.m. until about 2:30 p.m. working on terms of service contracts for Carbine 911. And it would have been real cool to have a lawyer to be able to bounce that off of instead of just our city legal counsel. I appreciate that she approaches growth and development with balance. She mentioned that during her public comments. I thought that that was really important. That aligns with things that I've been saying since day one. She supports responsible expansion while recognizing the importance of preserving community assets like Kulik. She did support the Kulik project. And she just strikes me as somebody who understands that progress and preservation don't have to be mutually exclusive. And again, that's important to me. Nina LaSalle made it into my top 5 because of her municipal finance background. What I liked about Donnie was the fact that he was able to give us a very unique perspective and help educate all of us. I mean, as much as I have a business finance background, I am not a municipal finance expert, and I don't think I ever will be. You have to emerge out of that arena to really get all the nuance of it, and it was really helpful to have him be able to decipher some of that nuance for us. So she stood out. Having somebody with direct public sector financial experience seems very valuable, especially when we have long-term infrastructure obligations, budget pressures, and difficult funding decisions. I do also appreciate that she mentioned her focus on fiscal responsibility while still recognizing the importance of housing accessibility and the tools like the Housing Trust Fund. She seems very pragmatic, so I think she would complement council well. I also really liked Mary Onifer. Never met her before. The fact that she lives so close to our downtown and that she's a senior and understands the relationship between our downtown and the neighbors surrounding it, particularly on the east side of Ferndale, I think is a really different perspective. We haven't really had that since Cat Burner James, with her, proximity to downtown. Her appreciation for preserving historic features and community character also resonates with me. I like that she wanted to create stronger dialogue between residents and businesses rather than treating them as opposing interests. I do think that she'd be a thoughtful voice for residents living in close proximity. Jim McLucky also made it into my top 5. Selfishly, everything you said in your goals are 100% in my goals. You support the QULIC, I support the QULIC. You support a tree ordinance, I support a tree ordinance. You support using the text messaging system that is sitting out there waiting to be used, and I also support using the text messaging system. I like that Jim has a combination of analytical thinking and personal ownership. He puts in the work to understand issues deeply rather than reacting on a surface level. Again, your priorities overlap with mine, and I think that it would be a good fit. You get along with all of us, and you understand that there are quality of life issues that matter just as much as budgets and infrastructure, and I truly appreciate that. I think Chris left, but I'm gonna tell you, Chris Hall also made it into my top list because Chris has shown up more than I've shown up, more than I think any of us have shown up. He has gone to commission meetings that he's not part of. He's gone to Fern and Learn multiple times. The level of engagement that I see from him deserves recognition. What I really appreciate about Chris is that he also doesn't allow disagreement to turn into hostility or division. Obviously tonight we did not vote in unison. That is expected. I think that is appreciated on this council body. Being able to have those conversations and have them open and honest and thoughtfully, I think he can contribute to that. His background in data analytics is also an enormous asset, and having people that can critically evaluate information, spot trends, and think systematically is also really valuable in government decision-making. So I think that's 5.
Okay, hearing you all, doing some quick tabulations. If we wanted, we have a very clear group of 4 that were in 3 or more top 5 lists. Otherwise, to include 2 or more, we go up to a group of 7, which does seem a bit large for our next conversation. So if we go with 3 or more in the top 5, the finalists would be in no particular order: Renee Townsend, Nina LaSalle, Jim McLucky, and Chris Hall. Are we comfortable moving forward and inviting them to the next phase?
Yeah.
No. I would like to add Bill Price to that list.
I don't know that that's a unanimous decision. Or even majority.
Was he on anybody else's list?
Yes, he would be on 2 people's list, but we have 3 individuals who are on 2 people's lists.
Okay, I don't know what, so that's just a no then from the rest of council, not to include those 2 names?
Will there be more names? It would be
Yeah,
7
it would either be a
total.
group of 4 or a group of 7.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said it was 2 that were
2
on
more in
for-
addition to Bill. There are 3 total
Oh, in
candidates.
addition to Bill, okay.
Yeah, that were mentioned by at least 2 members in their top 5.
I mean, I would love the chance to put mine in order of top 3 or top 2. What would the list be? Renee Townsend, Nina LaSalle, Jim McLucky, and Chris Hall?
Yes.
Okay. I personally am not ready to finalize that list, but I'm not in the majority, so.
What we need to decide, though, is whether or not we're inviting this group. I'm just trying to figure out where you're at, because we need to, in 2 weeks, we have a group of 4 that showed up on at least 3.
Yes.
And to invite those individuals back to, I guess, the final interview?
Yes. And I think for context, the intent here being, if you are currently on a top 5 of at least 3 members, the likelihood of council reaching consensus on one of these candidates is higher. If we're split now, whether we won't get past that split in the future is really the question. We need to get to a decision by a specific date because of the charter language. So if these are 4 that we have higher consensus on today, that's probably the best use of our time.
Is it appropriate for us to do a motion now during discussion?
I don't believe you need to make a specific motion. Having, this direction, I can follow up with the individuals that were selected. What I would like some consensus on is what that next step looks like. My recommendation or thought would be we host a special meeting before the next regular council meeting to give each of these 4 individuals 15 minutes of Q&A, more of a town hall style, if you will, with council, and then you make the determination at the evening meeting that follows. Is that amenable to you all?
I would say so.
Okay, so we will set up a special meeting for Tuesday, May 26th at 6 p.m., just before the 7 p.m. meeting, to give each of the 4 finalists an opportunity to engage one more time.
Okay. All right. And again, thank you, everyone, for applying. We really appreciate you. Everyone had such great qualifications. It was really difficult. I remember that the night of the meeting, I stayed up quite late just looking at those applications because I'm really charged after a council meeting, so I can't sleep. But it was just really difficult because before I was at top 10, and then I moved down to 9, and now we're here. So now what I'd like to do is open it up to the city manager for department head updates.
Please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A couple updates. Tomorrow is our Police Week observance at 10 a.m. in front of City Hall. On Saturday is our Touch a Truck event. It goes from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. There's free hot dogs and ice cream, and there'll be a bunch of emergency vehicles and DPW vehicles and school buses, and so it's a family event, so spread the word. We're hoping to have a big turnout. We are also doing police department tours as well. I think it's important to note that all of our officers are wearing mourning bands this week in honor of those who have fallen in the line of duty. In 2025, there was 115 police officers who lost their life. Even this year, to date, there's been 38 nationally that we've lost. The only one is too many, but there is some solace that the number in 2025 reached an 80-year low in police officer deaths. So whatever we're doing, whether it's training, I'm not sure, but we hope that continued trends continues to drop, but it was 20% reduction from 2024 to 2025. So that is something to at least have the silver lining. So, thank you.
Parks?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. From Parks and Rec today, we mainly have some reminders of some upcoming events. So just letting everybody know, we have our Safety Town that will be taking place at Garbett Park next Thursday at 6 p.m. It'll run from 6 to 7 p.m. With the assistance of the fire department and the police department, we will be doing a lot of bike activities. We'll be taking the kids on a tour of the Safety Town pad and doing some trainings on traffic safety and what to do at different signs and things like that. We'll also be doing some giveaways for some bike accessories and doing some bike licensing and have some other giveaways as well. So again, that'll be Thursday, May 21st at 6 p.m. at Garbett Park. We also have our Gary Park Skate Jam that is upcoming on Saturday, June 6th. That'll be at Gary Park at from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. That will include skate park contests, bounce houses, games and activities, a live DJ, vendor giveaways, and food trucks. It is really a family-oriented event. There is the skate park portion of it that does cost a nominal fee in order to enter into, but it is really tailored to everybody coming out and enjoying the festivities and everything we have to offer. We are still currently seeking youth vendors to be part of that event, and we also want to thank our presenting sponsor for that event, which is Vibe Credit Union this time around. So anybody that is interested in any additional sponsorships or any youth vendors that want to be a part of it, just contact me at ejohnson@ferndalemI.gov. Lastly, we just want to remind the community that we still have openings for our summer camp program. If you'll remember, we expanded our program from one singular camp to 3 separate camps across 3 different age groups. That younger age group, which is 5 through 7, the Joy Route program, is just about full. There's still some spots in various weeks, but in the Timberline and the Canopy camps, which are the older 2 groups, the 8 through 9 and the 10 through 12, there are a lot of spots available in those different weeks. If you're not familiar with the camp, each week has its own theme. We go on at least 1 field trip per week, and we have daily activities and breakfast and lunches included on a daily basis as part of that program. They are held at Hazel Park schools this year. The younger group, the Joy Root group, will be at Edison School, and the older 2 groups will be at Webb Elementary School. The cost is $200 per week for residents and $220 per week for non-residents, and you can contact me for more information on that. And that is it from us today.
DPW?
So we have the spring recycling event this Saturday, 5/16, for the first time. It'll be occurring at DPW 521 East Camborne. That was a location change for this year. Thankfully, we did it because we have the touch truck event happening in the City Hall lot where we would normally do it. Our event goes from 9 till 2 p.m., so you have time to do both. And then just a reminder that you can bring metal, paper, electronics, styrofoam, paper shredding, motor oil, batteries, and household hazardous waste.
Fire?
Good evening. So just a reminder for Memorial Day Parade, which is a phenomenal event. You know, for our department, we start in Pleasant Ridge because they do have a little ceremony up there. Come back for our parade here and then end at the Memorial Mall. And the fire department will be, Station 1 right there by Memorial Mall will be open. Kind of have a little mini open house, some little giveaways. So come stop over, see us, interact. We'll have a couple of fun things set up. So, you know, hang out. And last year, I think we did balloons for the kids. That was big, you know, very popular. So try to do that again with some other things. So just stop by and see us and get a little tour and, you know, do some activities.
Communications.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just two quick things. I wanted to let you know the 20th edition of the triannual print newsletter is out. This is the spring-summer edition, so it covers content for May, June, July, and August. It's here at City Hall. I anticipate it'll probably be at homes within the next day or so. If anyone ever wants to get an extra copy, they can grab them here, and they're also going to be online at ferndalemi.gov/newsletter. And then also the Ferndale Learn program is still ongoing. Anyone's still welcome to stop by if they want to attend a session. We did have to reschedule last week's to this week, so we have two. Finance is now on Wednesday from 6:30 to 8:30 here in Chambers, and then DPW will be 6:30 to 8:30 at the DPW yard. Then it'll just keep going from there. If anyone wants to apply, you can do so at bit.ly/FernandLearn4 and reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
That's it for department updates.
With, let's see here. I think I started with you for something earlier, so we'll start here. Councilmember Kelly.
I just again want to thank every single person who applied for this appointment. Putting yourself out there publicly is not easy, and this community showed up in a really beautiful way. And it was not easy to make this decision. It was very difficult. A lot of really great candidates in this process.
I would echo that sentiment. I know Michelle already left, but I spoke to Michelle Donaldson a little bit ago, and I just adore her. I adore the way that she presented, and she has such a strong environmental focus that we have openings on different commissions. I am hoping that she will take the opportunity to maybe pivot into our Environmental Sustainability Commission. Bill, I loved talking to you too. I was so happy to be able to give you a background on Kulik and all the challenges that have gotten us to where we are. I think you have an incredible skill set. I am hopeful that maybe we have a spot for you somewhere on the Planning Commission. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. I know that you had applied at one point, and if that's something that's still of interest, let's find a place for you. This shouldn't be the end of your engagement with the city. Chris McClonish, you're deep in the back. And I know you pulled out of this, but I was really excited to see you apply. You know, you have been such a strong voice in our community for such a long time, and I'll never forget first meeting you really in 2019. And you have consistently stayed engaged. You're consistently out there. I think there's a place for you too. And same thing with you, Krista. I know we've talked before, and I know that you're planning a run. You would be an incredible voice on council. You have the experience. I know you have the business acumen. And all of that is to say that it was hard to narrow down the field. And I think that I don't even have to encourage you to continue to be engaged because you've always been engaged. So I'm looking forward to your run. I think that, again, your voice is very valuable. And so is everybody's. I'm just so happy that we had so many people apply. And I feel like we are in a good place to find ways that you can engage with us further.
Councilmember Sabatini.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before the city council meeting, I was over at the Board of Education meeting. They were discussing early discussions on Ferndale Schools Community Foundation. So essentially a fundraising mechanism led by the community to benefit the schools beyond the paltry dollars that our education system gets. The idea, it's very open, and they're actually looking for board members, so I encourage anybody interested that wants to contribute or is curious to reach out. I'll share details on how you can do that as soon as possible. Probably not tonight, but tomorrow or the next day. Or reach out directly. You can always reach out if you want to learn more. I was really inspired. I'm very hopeful. I think they could do a lot of really good things. I think the city could find opportunities to collaborate and where goals align or overlap to stretch dollars and maximize positive results. What else? Yeah, it's early stages, so there will be more to come on this, but I'm very hopeful for its potential. A lot of people showed up. There was 20 residents, all different kinds of backgrounds, people with kids in the district, yeah, people that weren't Pleasant Ridge residents. It was very cool to see. So hopefully a lot more good things to come from that. Oh, and there was at one time a Ferndale Education Fund, 89 to 2001 when COVID shut it down, and it raised a ton of money. In fact, there's $40,000 left over that they raised, and so that money is being absorbed by the what's going to be the new community foundation. So again, more to come on that. And then, Madam Mayor, I believe you mentioned the SRS bill that passed unanimously in the Senate.
Yes.
My understanding is it's now in front of the House, and our Senator Jeremy Moss tells me that they have the bills before them, and there is Republican support, and so they're working hard to include this in the final budget negotiations. And so just a little bit on that, SRS stands for State Revenue Sharing, and what this bill lays out is the call for a trust fund, which would set aside dollars that municipalities could count on when they set their budgets, rather than waiting to see what they do. So a very cool thing to see. The fact that it has Republican support gives me hope. Please reach out to call our representatives and tell them that this is important for Ferndale and our neighbors. And yeah. Additionally, we've been looking at some noise ordinance and short-term rental stuff. I'm very hopeful that there's going to be a lot of resident concerns addressed. More to come on that. But it is a priority, and we are paying attention to it daily. I've got more, but that's it for now. I appreciate all the discussion. You know, I think a lot of what I would love to see come from this is more community conversation around planning, development, which includes parking. So thanks for all the wonderful presentations and thoughtful discussion. Yeah, thank you.
A lot of work occurred tonight. I had so many things to say as far as for call to council, but I'm tired. So, so I will just leave it at once again, thank you to everyone who applied. Tomorrow is the State of the City held at Affirmations. From 6 to 7, it's volunteer appreciation, and 7 o'clock is the State of the City. And one of the things that I really enjoy about this event is that for the hour prior to the State of the City, we're able to recognize and acknowledge volunteers. So that's if you've served on a board or a commission or any capacity with the city, it's always a fun time and always a way to kind of acknowledge you. So I hope you can make it. I believe Michael's not here, but I'm sure that I'm sure that invitations went out. But even if you didn't get an invitation, you can show up. And learn what's happening at the city. So with that being said, this meeting's adjourned at 10:24. Have a good evening.